Chapter 28-26. There were more than 1,000 bloodwood trees killed just now, and each bloodwood was worth more than 5,000 points. He had obtained a total of more than 6 million points. It was a huge harvest. However, it was normal. These bloodwood trees had obviously devoured many cultivators, so they had mutated and become stronger. They were also very difficult to kill. In addition, there were so many bloodwood trees that even a dozen peak upper Dowlord experts would find it difficult to escape if they didn't have powerful abilities or Xian Bao. Su Fong had an extraordinary crimson body, so it wasn't easy for him to kill these bloodwood trees. He had spent a lot of effort, so it was natural for him to obtain so many points in the end. Next, Su Fong sat cross-legged in the canyon and continued to devour silver vein pills to recover his crimson body. At the same time, he began to comprehend the Blood Valley's laws. Dallas City, in the main hall deep in time and space. Supreme Elder Spring Autumn, Grand Elder Changsun of the three venerable mysterious sects, and the other powerhouses of Dongxian no longer paid attention to the heavenly chosen divine list. Almost half of the time for the elite competition had passed, and the rankings of the heavenly chosen divine list had basically stabilized. These powerhouses naturally didn't pay attention to anything. It was usually very difficult for these experts to gather together. Now that they were gathered, they naturally wanted to exchange their experiences in cultivation or make friends with other powerhouses. Suddenly, one of the powerhouses suddenly exclaimed, "Hey, Su Fong has finally entered the heavenly chosen divine list again." All the powerhouses looked over, their gazes penetrating the palace and the barrier of time and space to look at the heavenly chosen divine list in the sky above Dallas City. Near the end of the heavenly chosen divine list, Su Fong's name appeared, and it seemed to be ranked around 9,000. It's only around 9,000, QL11. It's probably the same as before. This time, it's just a flash in the pan. He'll fall out of the heavenly chosen divine list very soon. Almost half of the time for the elite competition has passed. After elimination, the remaining contestants and blood monsters have extraordinary strength. How can it be so easy to obtain more points and obtain a higher ranking on the heavenly chosen divine list? Some powerhouses scoffed when they saw Su Fong's ranking on the heavenly chosen divine list, and then they stopped paying attention to it. Hey, it changed. Su Fong's ranking changed again. After Su Fong's name disappeared on the heavenly chosen divine list, it quickly condensed again, and it rose to more than 6,000. It wasn't over yet. After a while, the ranking changed again and again. It rose rapidly from over 6,000 to over 700 before it stopped moving. From over 9,000 to over 1,000 in an instant, such a huge increase surprised and shocked all the big shots. Su Fong must have killed a lot of blood monsters or contestants just now. That's why he got more than 6 million points, and his ranking rose so quickly. Looks like I've underestimated this kid. He does have some tricks up his sleeve. He is only ranked around 700. Compared to the geniuses of the Eastern Profound Sky Pavilion, the three highest mysterious sects and the other factions, his points and ranking is still extremely far away. He can barely be considered as extraordinary. That's right, it shouldn't be a problem for Su Fong to enter the finals. However, he's still far from being able to represent our Eastern Profound Divine Realm and compete with the other geniuses. Many tycoons were surprised and began to discuss spiritedly. They didn't really take Su Fong seriously. The Dallas sect's leader quietly left the hall and took out a talisman to transmit his message. Envoy Fan, how's the situation at Square Heaven City? All these years, he had been busy serving the big shots of Dongxuan's various factions and had forgotten about Square Heaven City. Now that he saw Su Fong's rapid rise in the heavenly chosen divine list, he was reminded of the unscrupulous old monster and Ghost King sect's attack on Square Heaven City. Envoy Fan's voice soon came from the talisman. Unscrupulous old monster and Ghost King sect have been attacking Square Heaven City for more than 3,000 years, but they still can't break through the city's defense. The Dallas sect's leader was shocked. 3,000 years, and they still can't break through Square Heaven City's defense? Our unscrupulous old monster and Ghost King sect a bunch of good-for-nothings? Unscrupulous old monster and Ghost King sect's attack was shocking. They even activated the Ghost King cannon, but Square Heaven City's defense formation is too shocking. The energy used to maintain the formation seems to be endless, and there are formation masters constantly repairing the formation. Unscrupulous old monster and Ghost King sect can't break through the city's defense. It looks like this reputed one, unscrupulous old monster, and Ghost King sect have underestimated Square Heaven City's overall ability. Watch closely. Once Square Heaven City is breached, be ready to rescue at any time. Rescue? Sect leader, didn't you say you wanted to reap the benefits? Times have changed. Keep in touch with this reputed one at all times. The Taoist sect's leader ended his conversation with Envoy Fan and raised his head to look at the heavenly chosen divine list in the air. His eyes were filled with dread. Carefree divine pavilion. In a hall on the first floor, as Su Fang's ranking changed again and again, the entire hall was ignited. Finally, Su Fang's ranking was fixed at more than 700, and the hall was also boiling. Those cultivators of the heaven-forsaken desolate region were naturally elated. Those cultivators of the other mystic world who had mocked and ridiculed Su Fang before were speechless and lowered their heads to drink wine. In a private room on the second floor, the Pang clan's old ancestor swept away the haze from before, and his old face was blooming with red light. Su Fang is a Kuanpeng that roams the chaos. Sooner or later, he will soar into the sky. It's funny that those sparrows and crows keep chirping. It's really funny. The Chen clan's old ancestor and the Xian clan's old ancestor didn't look good. Those words that mocked Su Fang before were like loud slaps on their old faces, and they felt a burning sensation. The Chen clan and the Xian clan each had a genius who was listed on the heavenly chosen divine list. However, their ranking was far inferior to Su Fang. Moreover, Su Fang's ranking had risen so much at one time. Who could say for sure how high his ranking would soar next time? Miss Pang, Pang Yi, and the other Pang clan cultivators breathed a long sigh of relief. At this moment, they were all in high spirits. The other clans of the Fire Luo mystic world didn't have any great enmity with the Pang clan before. Now that Su Fang's ranking had entered the top 1,000, they were all tempted. However, because of the Chan clan and Xin clan, these cultivators didn't dare to pull strings with the Pang clan directly. They secretly transmitted their nascent spirit voices to communicate with the Pang clan's old ancestor and other Pang clan cultivators. Su Fang stayed in the canyon for about 100 years. With the help of the blood evil pill and the pure blood evil aura he obtained from killing Xuanmu, not only had his blood evil avatar recovered to its peak state, but the fourth killing star on his blood armor was also about to be successfully born. Su Fang projected his sensing power, then flew into the air toward a place where the cultivators' auras were concentrated. He came to an area full of rocks. This area covered an area of 1,000 miles. Blood-colored rocks stabbed into the ground like swords were everywhere, forming a stone forest. Su Fang's gaze swept across the rocks on the ground. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile. Then he landed on the ground and walked toward the rocks. The stone forest looked messy, but it was actually a huge killing array. If one flew through the air, they would be killed by the array's divine power. It was impossible for such a stone forest to form naturally in the Blood Valley. Clearly, someone had deliberately created it to hunt the participants and blood monsters. With Su Fang's attainments in array formations, how could he not see through it? As soon as he entered the stone forest, a world of blood appeared before him. It was as if he had entered an illusory space from reality. This array that was created with the help of the Blood Valley's environment is very powerful. It seems to have been created by an array master of the mystical sect. However, if you want to use this array to kill me, Su Fang, it's really a joke. Su Fang's lips curled into a cold smile as he strode forward in the blood-colored space. More than a dozen figures gathered around Su Fang. Su Fang couldn't sense them due to the array's divine power, but they could clearly see Su Fang's every move with the help of the array's divine power. Be careful. This kid is a 3-star divine general. Even the geniuses of the Heaven Pavilion can only be slaughtered by us after falling into our tyrant's blade school's trap. Since we captured that formation master of the mystical sect and created this blood slaughter formation here, we've already slaughtered over 100 experts, and there's even a peak Dowlord amongst them. This kid is only at the intermediate Dowlord realm, so wouldn't killing him be as easy as slaughtering a chicken? More than a dozen cultivators conversed in secret. Their faces were covered in savage smiles, and their eyes were filled with fierce killing intent. Kill! More than a dozen cultivators were like hungry wolves lurking in the dark. They released their thoughts from the array and pounced towards Su Fong. More than a dozen thoughts transformed into more than a dozen saber lights that were filled with fierce killing intent. They intertwined to form a powerful saber array that was about to grind Su Fong into powder. Su Fong's figure flashed and suddenly disappeared from the array without a trace. The saber array's attack missed and bombarded the array, shaking and tearing it apart. Damn it, why did that kid disappear? He didn't disappear, but he hid in the array. That kid must be an array master as well. Those cultivators couldn't sense Su Fong's existence and were instantly shocked. At this moment, boom, boom, boom. The blood-colored rocks were shattered one after another, and the array was shattered layer by layer. In the end, it collapsed with a loud bang and revealed the true scene of the stone forest. The cultivators of the Tyrant's Blade School were shocked and realized that they had encountered a tough opponent. Yes, they were confident in their numbers, and their strength was extraordinary. One of them was an upper-level Dao Master, 3 of them were middle-level and lower-level Dao Lords, and the rest were upper-level Dao Lords. After all, Su Fong was only one person. Although the array was broken, they had no intention of activating their Heaven's chosen tokens to escape. Instead, they all charged towards Su Fong. Will oppression. Su Fong released his will of slaughter, and the phantom of the killing god slowly rose. A wave of oppressive force surged forward with crushing momentum. Although the cultivators were astonishingly strong, their Dao hearts trembled under the powerful will of slaughter, and they couldn't even gather their thoughts. At this moment, Su Fong's slaughter sword array quickly condensed and instantly enveloped the cultivators of the Tyrant's Blade School. Chi! 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 Sword Chi erupted, and those Dao Lords were immediately killed. The 3 Dao Lords only lasted for a dozen breaths before they were swallowed by the sword array. Chapter 28-27. Your strength is extraordinary. You're definitely not a nobody. I wonder where you're from and where you're from. I'm a cultivator of the Tyrant's Blade School. The school is also a powerful force in the Eastern Xian Divine Domain. If you kill me, you'll be going against the Tyrant's Blade School. It's not good for your future. Why don't you let me go and pretend that nothing happened? The remaining upper Dowlord expert was struggling to hold on in the sword formation as he threatened Su Fong. The Tyrant's Blade School? Su Fong had heard of this school. It was indeed a powerful force in the Eastern Xian Divine Domain that controlled dozens of mystical worlds. It was weaker than the 3 supreme mystical sects and the Luo Shao Sword School, but it was still a first-rate force in Dongxian. The cultivators in the school were most skilled in the way of the blade. However, Su Fong was not even afraid of the Heaven Pavilion disciples, let alone the Tyrant's Blade School. Then he sneered disdainfully, "If I wasn't strong enough, I would have died in your formation. Have you thought of letting me go then?" The expert gritted his teeth and shouted, "It looks like you really plan to kill me." The Tyrant's Blade Marquis is the peerless genius of the Tyrant's Blade School. He's also a peerless genius whose name shakes Dongxian. He's not far away now. I only need to crush the talisman, and Junior Brother Marquis will arrive in an instant. You won't be able to escape death then. Marquis of the Tyrant's Blade? Another genius. He was at the same height as Dongxian Jun. His strength was slightly inferior to Dongxian Jun, but he was also a powerful genius. Marquis of the Tyrant's Blade must have accumulated a lot of points, right? Su Fong suddenly asked. The expert said proudly, "Humph. Since the beginning of the elite competition, Junior Brother Marquis of the Tyrant Blade has killed at least 800 cultivators, if not 1,000. There were also many experts among them who had killed many powerful, mutated blood monsters. His current points are at least within the top 100. Why are you asking? Top 100? With so many points, you're qualified for me to attack. Su Fong smiled domineeringly as he urged the sword formation to crush the Tyrant's Blade school expert. Kid, Junior Brother Marquis of the Tyrant's Blade will never let you go if you want to kill me. The Tyrant's Blade school expert was both shocked and furious. He took out a rune talisman and crushed it. Then, before the sword formation could crush him, he activated the Heaven's Chosen token. A wave of spatial divine might enveloped that expert, and then he was swept away from the sword formation and vanished without a trace. His Heaven's Chosen decree was left in place. In the elite competition, one could activate the Heaven's Chosen token and leave the Blood Valley space. But doing so was the same as giving up the right to participate and handing over the Heaven's Chosen token. In the Blood Valley, if someone really wanted to kill a contestant, they wouldn't give the other party the chance to activate their Heaven's Chosen token. There were also many powerful blood monsters that had the ability to seal the space of the Blood Valley, causing the contestants' Heaven's Chosen tokens to lose effect, resulting in the deaths of many contestants. With Su Fong's current Blood Fiend Dharma body, there was almost no chance for him to activate the Heaven's Chosen token to kill this Tyrant Blade School cultivator. However, Su Fong spared his life on account of the fact that he had attracted someone to deliver food to him. Su Fong took out the Heaven's Chosen token and plundered the points of the dozen or so cultivators he had killed. These dozen or so Tyrant Blade School cultivators had used the blood-killing array to kill many contestants, so their points were quite abundant. Su Fong had obtained more than 500,000 points from them. Su Fong's ranking had risen by more than 20 places on the Heaven's Chosen list, and he was about to break through the 700th rank. I hope that the Tyrant Blade Marquis won't disappoint me too much and will really rank in the top 100. Su Fong sat down cross-legged in the stone forest, swallowing blood fiend pills to recover while waiting for the Tyrant Blade Marquis' arrival. After an hour, a rumbling sound came from afar. Su Fong looked over and saw a figure sweeping across the blood-colored sky, breaking through the shackles of the Blood Valley space. His body rubbed against the surrounding blood fiend chi, creating a series of sonic booms. His body was burning with blood-colored flames, looking very shocking. Boom! After a dozen breaths, the figure flew to the sky above the stone forest and then directly landed in the stone forest. As soon as he landed, the formidable, imposing aura from the impact shattered a large expanse of the stone forest in the surroundings. It was a bald young man with a robust figure. He was like a cheetah, and his eyes flickered with a sharp and domineering glow. The blood-red armor he wore had fused with his flesh and blood, and it was covered in the marks of slaughter. Surprisingly, it was the diagram of 5 stars of slaughter. This person's cultivation wasn't really shocking, and he was only at the lower Downlord realm. However, his aura was even more formidable than that cultivator at the upper Downlord realm from the Tyrant Blade School. The Tyrant Blade Marquis. It was you who killed a fellow disciple of mine. The bald young man's divine light swept through Su Fong and the surroundings as he spoke indifferently. His voice was like a treasure blade being unsheathed, and it carried a sonorous sound. Su Fong nodded honestly and said, "Yes, they set up the blood-killing array with the intention of killing me. In the end, I killed 13 of them and let one go. Did you know that they were fellow disciples of mine?" "I did. That cultivator with the strongest strength from the Tyrant Blade School told me about it." The bald young man's tone became ghastly. "Since you knew that they were fellow disciples of mine, then you still dared to kill them?" Su Fong was extremely relaxed, and he smiled brilliantly. "Why wouldn't I dare? Not only them, but even you, I will kill without hesitation. If you hand over the Heaven's Chosen token now and leave the Blood Valley, then I can let you go. Otherwise, you'll be the 14th cultivator from the Tyrant Blade School to die at my hands." The Tyrant Blade Marquis laughed wildly. "Arrogant. It's the first time I've seen such an arrogant person. I fought the peerless genius of the Eastern Profound Pavilion, Dong Xianjun, and even he couldn't do anything to me and allowed me to escape unscathed. You arrogant person, you actually want to suppress me? Su Fong snorted disdainfully. Dong Xianjun? He's just someone who lost to me. What's there to show off about being able to escape unscathed from him? Shock appeared in the Tyrant Blade Marquis' eyes as he scanned Su Fong with a sharp gaze. He realized that Su Fong was only an upper-level Dao Lord, and he hadn't even reached the peak. The only thing he was wary of was Su Fong's Blood Fury avatar. It was quite rare for an upper-level Dao Lord to have a Blood Fury avatar at the level of a 3-star God-Slaughter warrior. Shameless boasting. Let's see how arrogant you can be after I chop off your head. The Tyrant Blade Marquis shouted coldly, and an unparalleled domineering aura shot into the sky. Together with his cold, murderous aura, his thoughts, and his will, they transformed into a huge blood-red saber that was hundreds of meters long. Chi! The saber slashed down at Su Fong, making Su Fong feel as if he was facing an endless world of saber light. The sharp and domineering will instantly enveloped Su Fong, wanting to cut his Dao heart and soul in half. The Tyrant Blade Marquis had merged the Dao of Saber with the Blood Fury avatar in this attack. It was domineering and sharp, surpassing the limits of the Dao Lord realm. Amazing, as expected of a genius who can fight with Dong Xianjun. However, you're still not qualified to fight with me, Su Fong. Su Fong punched out, and the Blood Fury avatar's aura instantly turned into nothingness. Then, an aura of abandoning everything and killing everything erupted with a loud bang. Su Fong had abandoned everything about the Blood Fury avatar in this punch. His strength, will, Blood Valley's laws, and Dao Rhymes of Slaughter were all condensed in this attack, pushing the Blood Fury avatar to its limits. Its power was terrifying. The shadow of a god of slaughter soared into the sky, and the terrifying pressure of the will of slaughter diluted the domineering aura and murderous aura of the huge saber. Then, the violent and murderous aura that erupted from Su Fong's punch collided with the huge saber, shattering it into pieces. The stone forest on the ground also turned into dust under the power of Su Fong's punch. So powerful. How can a 3-star Blood Massacre divine general erupt with such shocking power? That's an attack method that only the Blood Fury Divine Guards trained by Heaven Pavilion can use. Marquis Ba Dao's divine light changed instantly, and he quickly withdrew the Blood Fury avatar. Rays of saber light were released from his body, and they condensed into layers of saber shadows in front of him. Then, hundreds of thoughts shot out and merged into the saber shadows, forming layers of sharp saber blades to form a defense. Boom! Su Fong's attack crashed into Marquis Ba Dao's defense and was shattered by the sharp saber blades. The layers of saber blades were also shattered by the impact. Marquis Ba Dao spat out blood from the impact, and his Dao heart was almost shattered. However, he managed to defend against Su Fong's attack that had abandoned the Blood Fury avatar. Swoosh! Su Fong raised his right arm, which immediately turned into a blood vine and shot toward Marquis Ba Dao. Sky-piercing blood vine? You want to break through my defense with a mere sky-piercing blood vine? Marquis Ba Dao looked disdainful. However, in the next moment, Marquis Ba Dao revealed a look of horror. The blood vine was torn apart by the saber light released by Marquis Ba Dao, but it turned into countless blood threads that penetrated Marquis Ba Dao's defense and seeped into his body. Then, they began to spread wildly into his flesh, Dao, palace, and avatar. This was not the sky-piercing blood vine that Marquis Ba Dao thought it was, but the sky-piercing Blood King vine. Marquis Ba Dao's Dao palace was penetrated by the blood threads, and now even his avatar could not escape. He could only watch as his life and cultivation were devoured. Who are you? Let me know before I die. Marquis Ba Dao stared at Su Fong and asked in despair. Su Fong. QL11. The blood mask on Su Fong's face quickly shrank, revealing his original appearance. Su Fong. I didn't expect that Marquis Ba Dao, would die in the hands of Su Fong. I was blind, and my death was not unjust. Marquis Ba Dao smiled sadly, and then his voice stopped abruptly. His aura quickly withered, and his body became shriveled like a withered tree. A powerful genius who killed thousands of contestants in the elite competition still died in the hands of Su Fong. Not only his points, but his life and cultivation were all taken by Su Fong. Chi. The Blood King Vine devoured Marquis Ba Dao's Blood Fiend avatar, and then moved to Su Fong's Blood Fiend avatar. Su Fong used the mental cultivation method that Daozu gave him to devour other cultivators' Blood Fiend avatar, and merged with Marquis Ba Dao's Blood Fiend aura. After a small part of the fusion, Su Fong's empty Blood Fiend avatar quickly recovered to its peak state. After another 5 minutes, the slash marks on the blood armor trembled, and then a murderous aura surged out. A killing star quickly condensed on the blood armor. A 4-star blood kill general. Su Fong was originally in a state where the 4th killing star was about to be born. Marquis Ba Dao was a 5-star blood kill general. After being devoured by Su Fong finally succeeded in giving birth to a killing star. This meant that Su Fong's Blood Fiend avatar had reached another level. Chapter 2828. Su Fong's Blood Demon avatar had 81 slaughter marks, so it was more profound than any other cultivator's Blood Demon avatar. Marquis Tyrant Saber was a 5-star divine slaughter general. Su Fong had devoured more than half of Marquis Tyrant Saber's Blood Demon avatar with the help of the heaven-piercing blood vines, which allowed Su Fong's Blood Demon avatar to recover and condense the 4th slaughter star. This showed how profound Su Fong's Blood Demon avatar was and how difficult it was to improve it. Continue devouring. The Blood Fiend Dharma body gave birth to the 4th killing star, which removed a lot of Su Fong's Blood Fiend Dharma body's momentum. Su Fong continued to devour the Blood Fiend Dharma body of the Tyrant Saber Marquis. At the same time, he was constantly devouring Marquis Tyrant Saber's vitality and cultivation through the heaven-piercing blood vines, causing Su Fong's vitality and cultivation to skyrocket at a shocking speed. Marquis Tyrant Saber's points probably won't disappoint me. Su Fong was filled with anticipation and was about to grab Marquis Tyrant Saber's Heaven Selection token. Suddenly, a thought flashed out from the void and erupted with a divine might that wrapped around Marquis Tyrant Saber's Heaven Selection token. Unexpectedly, there was actually an expert's thought hidden in the void and waiting for an opportunity to seize Marquis Tyrant Saber's Heaven Selection token. That expert cultivated the Space Grand Dao, and his cultivation was extremely high. He was at least an upper-level Dao Lord. Coupled with the fact that Su Fong had concentrated all his energy on Marquis Tyrant Saber, he actually didn't notice that expert's thought. You're courting death. How could he allow others to touch a piece of meat that was already at his mouth? A red light shot out from Su Fong's eyes. True Eyes of Annihilation. Su Fong executed the True Eyes of Annihilation, and a needle-like thought flashed out from his eyes and shot towards that expert's thought. That thought was burned by the red light, but it didn't shatter and flashed into the void. Su Fong stretched out his hand and grabbed Marquis Tyrant Saber's Heaven Selection token. A furious man's voice resounded from the void. Su Fong, I'll kill you. Su Fong said indifferently, I'll wait. I wonder how strong you are compared to the Tyrant Saber Marquis. The man's voice never sounded again. Su Fong revealed a disdainful smile as he focused on devouring the Tyrant Saber Marquis. The Tyrant Saber Marquis Heaven's chosen decree didn't disappoint Su Fong. It increased Su Fong's points by 8 million. From this, it could be seen how astonishing the points Marquis Tyrant Saber had obtained from killing cultivators before. He deserved to be killed by Su Fong. More than 3,000 li away from Su Fong, a middle-aged man stood in the air, looking at Su Fong from afar. His eyes were filled with anger. This person was none other than the cultivator who had planned to reap the benefits from the battle earlier. He hesitated. The middle-aged man could not summon up the courage to kill Su Fong. Although this person was cunning and greedy, he still knew his own limits. He was not as strong as the Tyrant Saber Marquis. After witnessing how easily Su Fong killed the tyrant Saber Marquis, where would he find the courage to kill Su Fong? Su Fong, if you dare to hurt me, I won't let you off easily. The middle-aged man's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. He then took out a rune talisman and sent his nascent spirit over. Young Master Dong Xianjun, didn't you issue a reward for finding Su Fong's whereabouts? I just saw Su Fong. He then told Dong Xianjun about how Su Fong killed the tyrant Saber Marquis, as well as the spatial coordinates of his current location. Dong Xianjun's shocked voice was heard. Su Fong killed the tyrant Saber Marquis. Then there was no more sound. The middle-aged man was stunned. He then muttered to himself in disbelief. Could it be that even Dong Xianjun is afraid of Su Fong? Wasn't he searching for Su Fong in the Blood Valley? Young Master Dong Xianjun, my reward. The middle-aged man sent his nascent spirit to Dong Xianjun again, but there was no response. He was so angry that he gritted his teeth. Dallas City. Su Fong killed the tyrant Saber Marquis and gained nearly 8 million points. His ranking on the Heavenly Chosen Divine list also rose sharply. He rushed in the top 100 and finally stopped at the 52nd position. Such a shocking speed of improvement shocked everyone who saw it. Waves of exclamations rose and fell in the free and unfettered Divine Pavilion in Dallas City. Su Fong must have risen so quickly because he killed a powerful genius. Let's see which of the top 100 geniuses on the Heavenly Chosen Divine list has disappeared. The big shots from the various forces of the Eastern Xian Divine Realm were surprised to see Su Fong's ranking change. Soon, many experts found that the tyrant Saber Marquis name had disappeared from the Heavenly Chosen Divine list. This meant that the tyrant Saber Marquis had either been killed by Su Fong or was forced to use the Heavenly Chosen token to escape the Blood Valley. The former was more likely, as expected of the peerless genius who once stopped the invasion of the foreign tribes. He actually killed the peerless genius of the Tyrant Saber School. Su Fong's ranking is definitely not in the 50s. He might be able to reach the top 10. Su Fong is indeed extraordinary, but he's still far from the likes of Dong Xianlai and Dong Xianyang. He's not even as good as Gu Tianqi. He's only on par with Dong Xianjun. Su Fong is from a low-level universe, after all, and his cultivation time is far less than the other geniuses. It's already quite heaven-defying for him to have such a result. Many experts discussed animatedly and paid great attention to Su Fong. Supreme Venerable Spring Autumn and Great Elder Changsun sat cross-legged on their thrones, not saying a word. They had already realized that Su Fong was getting farther and farther away from them. It would be difficult to avenge Great Elder Changsuan's grandson and Supreme Venerable Spring Autumn's treasure. QL11 Dallas Sect Master was no longer in the mood to serve those big shots. He hurriedly left the palace and ordered Left Envoy Fan through the rune talisman. Immediately lead the experts in the sect to help Square Sky City and attack Old Man Hey Xian and Ghost King Sect. Outside Square Sky City. After such a long period of attack, Square Sky City's defensive array was in imminent danger. However, the energy that Ghost King Sect needed to activate the Ghost King cannon was also completely depleted. Seeing that Square Sky City was about to be breached, Old Man Hey Xian was very excited and kept urging Ghost King Sect. Square Sky City is already at the end of its rope. Quickly send people to break the barrier. Buzz, a rune talisman in Ghost King Sect's leader's body stirred. He took it out to take a look, and its divine light instantly changed. He immediately waved his hand. Ghost King Sect, leave Square Sky City quickly. Old Man Hey Xian was shocked. What's the matter? Ghost King Sect's leader gritted his teeth. Old Man Hey Xian, when did my Ghost King Sect offend you? How dare you set me up like this? Old Man Hey Xian was confused. Why do you say that? I just received news that Su Fong's ranking on the Heavenly Chosen Divine list has risen to 52nd place. Moreover, he obtained such an amazing result by killing the genius of the Tyrant Saber sect, Marquis Tyrant Saber. Once the elite competition is over, he will definitely soar into the sky and become the target of all the major forces. How can my Ghost King sect withstand Su Fong's anger? Ah, old man He Xian was dumbfounded. Puff, Ghost King sect's leader, suddenly released a thought, which turned into a cloud of black smoke and instantly enveloped old man He Xian. Old man He Xian was shocked and angry. How dare you sneak attack me? With you, we can more or less resolve part of Su Fong's anger. Ghost King sect will compensate Su Fong with some benefits. I think it will completely calm his anger. Ghost King sect's leader smiled sinisterly and opened his mouth to blow out a gust of cold wind. The black smoke that enveloped old man He Xian immediately seeped into old man He Xian's body and Dao Palace like a living thing. Old man He Xian's head tilted and he fainted. Then, Ghost King sect's leader ordered his subordinates to use all their strength to drive the Black Sail treasure ship and quickly leave Square Sky City. When left Emissary Fan arrived with the Daoist sect's experts, the people of Ghost King sect had already escaped without a trace. Inside the Blood Valley, Dong Xinjun's palm surged with a flame and burned a rune talisman to ashes. Yi Feibai asked, Dong Xinjun, what's the matter? Did you find Su Fong's whereabouts? We did find Su Fong's whereabouts, but not only can we not chase after him, but we also have to prepare to escape to avoid being killed by him. Dong Xinjun slowly told Yi Feibai about how Su Fong killed Marquis Tyrant Saber. Yi Feibai raised his sword-like eyebrows, and a hint of fear appeared in his deep eyes. Damn it, Su Fong's ability has improved so much that even Marquis Tyrant Saber was killed by him. I've fought with Marquis Tyrant Saber before. Even with my 5-element sword body, it's not difficult to defeat him, but it's impossible to kill him. I didn't expect Su Fong to be able to kill him. Su Fong's current ability is truly terrifying. What should we do next? Should we keep hiding from him? Dong Xinjun pondered for a while, a ruthless glint flashing in his eyes. Find Dong Xianhui Wang. Dong Xianhui Wang can choose not to give me face, but he should give face to young Master Yi. It looks like I can only ask Dong Xianhui Wang for help. Dong Xinjun took out a rune talisman and sent it through his soul, Senior Brother Hui Wang. After a long time, Dong Xianhui Wang's voice came from the talisman. Dong Xianjun, this reputed one is pursuing a blood monster that is crucial to this reputed one. I have no time to be distracted by you. Speak quickly if you have something to say. Junior Brother congratulates Senior Brother Hui Wang for obtaining the supreme fortune. Dong Xianjun first flattered him. Then he asked Dong Xianhui Wang for help to kill Su Fong. Su Fong has already attracted the attention of the Heaven Pavilion's higher-ups. Even Master Dao Zhu is paying attention to him. The price for me to attack him is too great. It's not worth it. Unexpectedly, Dong Xianhui Wang rejected him decisively. Yi Feibai spoke up. Dong Xianhui Wang, what if this young master asks you for help? Dong Xianhui Wang's apologetic voice came from the talisman. Young Master Yi, this reputed one is currently pursuing a blood-refined mastiff. It is truly difficult for me to be distracted. This reputed one is now at the pinnacle of the 9-star Divine General of Sanguine Massacre. I need to use this blood monster to break through to the Divine Lord of Sanguine Massacre. Everything else must be put aside. Please forgive me, young Master Yi. Dong Xianhui Wang spoke politely, but there was no room for negotiation. Brother Hui Huang's breakthrough to the Divine Lord of Sanguine Massacre is indeed urgent. Everything else can be put aside. Yi Feibai chuckled. Then, he said confidently, however, there is one more thing that is more important than Brother Hui Huang's pursuit of the blood-refined mastiff. What is it? Chapter 28-29. Dong Xianhui Wang was silent. Yi Feibai continued. This Jiushuan Heaven selection is the time for Brother Hui Wang to shine and surpass the other geniuses. If Brother Hui Wang can surpass the 3 of them in the Middle Mystic Tournament, you will be valued by the Dao Zhu. It is not impossible for you to be taken in as a direct disciple. Dong Xianhui Wang's calm voice came from the talisman. What young Master Yi said is what I want, but how can it be so easy to surpass the 3 of them? Does young Master Yi have a way? The Yi clan is one of the 5 divine clans in the Middle Mystic Divine Domain. The heaven selection of Jiuquan will be held in Middle Mystic. Although the Yi clan cannot guarantee that Brother Huiwang will enter the top 100 Jiuquan, it is not difficult to surpass Dongxian Lai, Dongxian Xianyang, or Dongxian Qingwei. The price is to kill Su Fong for you. That's right. Su Fong killed my men and stole my treasures. Even I almost died in his hands. If I don't kill him, I'm not a man. Deal. After killing Su Fong, his luck spider must belong to me. So, young master, Yi killing Su Fong for revenge is fake, but you want to take his luck spider. The luck spider is an ominous object. Is young master Yi not afraid that it will bring you endless calamity? Brother Huiwang need not worry about this. I have my own ways. Fine, I'll agree to your request. However, I will only shackle Su Fong when the time comes. It is up to young Master Yi to decide whether to kill him or not. Thank you, Brother Huiwang. Time flew. Unknowingly, another 2,000 years had passed. There were still 3 years before the end of the elite tournament. Su Fong was now in the top 1,000. Those in the top 10,000 could enter the finals of the Eastern Mystic Divine Domain. That was the real battle. Naturally, Su Fong was not in a hurry. During this time, Su Fongda spent most of his time on cultivation. Other than continuing to fight the tyrant Saber Marquis, he also kept swallowing the 9-vein elixir to improve his cultivation base and the strength of his blood avatar. The harvest was amazing. The blood fiend Dharma body successfully condensed another killing star, becoming a 5-star divine general of bloody slaughter. His understanding of the Blood Valley's nomological laws had also deepened. After devouring Marquis Tyrant Saber's cultivation base and life force, Su Fong's cultivation base rapidly rose to the peak of the upper Downlord level. Su Fong reckoned that after leaving Blood Valley and settling down for a while, he would be able to break through to Downlord in one fell swoop. In addition, the heaven-piercing Blood King Rotan's improvement was also shocking. At this moment, the heaven-piercing Blood King vine had fused with Su Fong's body. It extended from his chest down to his abdomen. The heaven-piercing Blood King vine's blood vessels fused with Su Fong's flesh, blood, and meridians, causing Su Fong's life force to become boundless. The power of the Blood King vine naturally multiplied. This was the great benefit that Su Fong gained from killing a peerless genius. Due to Su Fong's accumulation of cultivation over the years, not only did his ranking on the Chosen God list not rise, but fell instead, dropping to 69th place. What Su Fong did not know was that Dallas City had fallen into a great shock because of the heaven-defying rise of a genius. This heaven-defying genius was none other than Ling Xingchen. Ling Xingchen's performance in the elite competition this time was quite extraordinary, and he had always been in the top 100. QL11, however, there was still a huge gap between Ling Xingchen and the second echelon, led by Gu Qianqi. No one would have thought that just 100 years ago, Ling Xingchen would rise like the sun in the sky, causing a commotion in all directions. In the past 100 years, Ling Xingchen's name had risen steadily on the Chosen God list. In the end, he rose to 7th place in one go, second only to the top genius of the 3 supreme mysterious sects, Gu Qianqi. It should be known that since the start of the elite competition, it was extremely difficult to rise one rank within the top 100. When it came to the top 10, the difference between each rank was as high as 10 million points, and it was even more difficult to rise one rank. However, Ling Xingchen had done it. It was simply a miracle. Not only the 3 supreme mysterious sects, but even the experts of the Heaven Pavilion were shocked. The first elder of the 3 supreme mysterious sects was naturally so happy that he could not close his mouth. In the Blood Valley, Su Fong counted with his fingers and realized that there was only a little more than a third of the time left in the elite competition. Therefore, he ended his cultivation and prepared to search for a target to continue collecting points. His other goal was to find Yi Fei Bai. It was also time to get rid of Yi Fei Bai. Suddenly, a voice that sounded like a large bell came from afar. Su Fong, young master Yi Fei Bai has challenged you. Do you dare to accept the challenge? The voice sounded again and again, reverberating in the Blood Valley. Su Fong listened carefully for a while. He realized that there were many cultivators who were flying and using the power of the rune talisman to call out the voice again and again. Yi Feibai actually took the initiative to challenge me. Su Fong was shocked and stunned. He had never thought that Yi Feibai would take the initiative to challenge him. I was just about to look for Yi Feibai. I did not expect him to challenge me with such fanfare. Who gave him the guts to take the initiative to challenge me? Su Fong raised his eyebrows. That Yi Feibai was indeed a little strange. He must be plotting something. However, the ancestral dragon was in Yi Feibai's hands. Even if he knew that Yi Feibai was plotting something, Su Fong had no choice but to go. Su Fong activated the blood-killing token. At the same time, he used the life-shrinking technique to sense Yi Feibai's aura. Buzz! 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 The life-shrinking technique reacted quickly. The mysterious Dao runes flickered rapidly inside the Jioshuan Dao Palace and finally condensed into Yi Feibai's shadow. Found you! No matter what kind of trap you set, I will not let you go this time. Su Fong flew toward Yi Feibai. After flying over mountain ranges and regions surrounded by blood clouds, Su Fong arrived at the side of a blood lake that was boiling with blood water after about a month. The blood lake was thousands of feet wide. The lake was filled with blood water that kept boiling and emitting a strong blood aura. In the middle of the blood water was an island that was about 10 feet wide. On the island, a white-robed youth stood with his hands behind his back. It was Yi Feibai. Looking at his calm demeanor and arrogance, he did not look like he was running for his life the last time. Yi Feibai is so fearless. He must have something to rely on. What exactly is he relying on? Su Fong released his sensing power. At the same time, he activated the life-shrinking technique to sense the surrounding space. As expected, not far away from the blood lake, Su Fong sensed Dongxian Jun's familiar aura in a blood cloud in the sky. Is this Yi Feibai's trap? Su Fong was stunned. Soon after, he laughed involuntarily. Although he was still vigilant, he was not as alert as before. Outside the Blood Valley, Su Fong could kill one of Dongxian Jun's Dharma bodies. Now that he had become a 5-star divine killing general, he could completely kill Dongxian Jun in the Blood Valley. Why would he care about Dongxian Jun's ambush? The only thing he needed to be vigilant about was whether there were powerful blood monsters hidden in the Blood Lake. Su Fong stepped into the air and slowly flew to the sky above the island. He released his sensing power. The Blood Lake was quiet and there were no unusual movements. It seemed that there were no powerful blood monsters hidden in it. Yi Feibai. Su Fong looked down at Yi Feibai and shouted domineeringly. Yi Feibai raised his eyebrows and smiled arrogantly. Su Fong, you have finally come to die. Su Fong shouted. Yi Feibai, you are not qualified to kill me. Dongxian Jun is even less qualified. Show me what you have. As you wish. Yi Feibai smiled proudly. Then he shouted loudly, Dongxian Jun, you can come out now. As soon as he finished speaking, Dongxian Jun's figure flew out from the blood cloud. Dongxian Jun regained his former glory as a peerless genius of Heaven Pavilion. He looked at Su Fong and pointed. Su Fong, today is the day we settle our grudges. I will use your blood to wash away the shame of my defeat on the blood slaughter arena. I will also use your head to avenge my 5-element sword body. Are you going to team up, or do you want to come one by one? Seeing that Yi Feibai and Dongxian Jun were fearless, Su Fong's relaxed heart suddenly became highly vigilant. Then, buzz, buzz, buzz. The Dao runes of destiny from the life-shrinking technique and the true script of heavenly mystery decipher suddenly flashed rapidly. A life and death crisis was about to arrive. This life and death crisis came from Dongxian Jun. However, it did not come from Dongxian Jun himself, but from within Dongxian Jun's Taoist palace. There's actually an expert who can kill me hidden in Dongxian Jun's Dao Palace. He actually managed to evade the detection of the life contraction technique. Su Fong was shocked. With a flash, he immediately fled. Suddenly, since you're here, then stay. Dongxian Huang's indifferent voice came from Dongxian Jun's Taoist palace. It turned out that Dongxian Huang was hiding inside Dongxian Jun's Taoist palace, using the Heaven Pavilion's forbidden art to hide his presence. In addition, Su Fong had sensed that it was Dongxian Jun, so his wariness was greatly reduced. That was why he overlooked everything else and did not sense Dongxian Huang's presence. Swoosh! Swoosh! There were 300 thoughts divided into two colors, black and white. They looked very strange, erupting with the divine power of yin and yang. Black and white Xian Guang intertwined to form a yin and yang pattern, like two swimming fish. A divine power enveloped Su Fong. Su Fong felt that the entire world had turned into a state of chaos. Time and space no longer existed. He could not gather his thoughts, and his Tao heart and were rapidly disintegrating. Even his most primal soul had become muddle-headed. Dongxian Huang's calm voice rang out. Su Fong, this reputed one cultivates the Tao of yin and yang. The divine art I'm using is the Eastern Xian divine domain's top divine art, the yin-yang ultimate art. Once you fall into the divine power of this art, everything about you will return to chaos and nothingness. With your ability, you will die without a doubt. However, this reputed one does not want to kill you. I only want to shackle you and take your heaven's chosen token. Surrender. You don't want to kill me because you're afraid of being punished. You don't want to bear the crime of killing me. Once I'm shackled by you, how can ye Fei Bai let me go? Despicable! Su Fong shouted angrily. His crimson blood avatar erupted with all its might. At the same time, he took out the talisman given by the wine sage, trying to break free from the shackles of Dongxian Huang's divine art. It's meaningless to fight like a trapped beast. Chapter 28:30. Just as Su Fong was about to crush the sage of wine's talisman, a powerful will of the Blood Valley enveloped him, making him feel a fatal danger. Su Fong then remembered that he could not activate talismans or talisman treasures in the Blood Valley. Unless he created them himself, he would be obliterated by the Blood Valley's will. Zhang Sun Yaoyang had activated a talisman treasure at the Sanguine Slaughter Arena in the Second Slaughter City, but he had been obliterated by the Blood Valley's will. Su Fong had to give up on activating the Sage of Wine's talisman. However, other than the Sage of Wine's talisman, Su Fong had no other means to contend with Dongxian Hui Huang's supreme power. Su Fong, to think that you would have such a day. Dongxian Jun's handsome face was filled with viciousness, savagery, and delight. Yi Fei Bai shouted, Brother Hui Wang, don't forget our previous agreement. Dongxian Hui Wang nodded. Don't worry, I won't kill him. Once I've shackled him, he and his spider will naturally belong to you. Su Fong's Tao heart and will crumbled under Dongxian Hui Huang's divine power. His consciousness blurred as his memories began to fade. Dongxian Pavilion's supreme power, the yin-yang prime art, was so domineering. Not only could it reduce a cultivator's power and will to chaos, even their memories would disappear completely. The yin-yang change that Su Fong had once mastered was somewhat similar to Dongxian Hui Huang's current power, but the latter was 10,000 times stronger. One was a vast ocean, while the other was only a river. Could it be that Master is the only one who can resolve this crisis? Su Fong was very unwilling. Suddenly, the space within the Blood Valley suddenly vibrated as the entire space began to shrink. Then, a cold and majestic voice rang in every participant's mind. The time limit for the elite competition has increased by 1/3. From now on, the space within the Blood Valley will shrink continuously until it's 10 million miles wide. It turned out that this was to prevent some participants from not actively killing their targets after they had accumulated enough points, but to hide and wait until the end of the elite competition. The space within the Blood Valley shrank until it was 10 million miles wide. All the participants and blood monsters were confined within such a large space. It was impossible for them to avoid the battle passively. The final stage of the elite competition would be even more brutal. But for Su Fong, it was a heaven-sent opportunity. Why? Just as the space in the Blood Valley trembled, the divine might that enveloped Su Fong finally loosened and revealed a flaw. No matter how powerful Dongxian Hui Wang was, his ability could not be above the Blood Valley's law. As the valley shook, his ability was temporarily interrupted. Su Fong flipped his right hand and took out the blood slaughter token. A murderous aura gushed out along with Su Fong's thoughts and entered the blood-killing token. In an instant, Su Fong fused with the blood slaughter token. At the same time, he used the blood slaughter token to fuse with Blood Valley's space-time and control a portion of Blood Valley's will. Boom! Blood Valley Supreme will erupted, shattering Dongxuan's glorious aura layer by layer. The yin and yang vortex above Su Fong began to crumble due to Dongxuan's glorious thoughts and were being shaken. Blood-killing token. Dongxian Huiwang was surprised and shocked, followed by a trace of jealousy. Although his ability surpassed Su Fong, he did not have the blood slaughter token. This could only mean that his talent was not as good as Su Fong's. Then he shouted coldly, "The blood slaughter token can't save you." Hundreds of thoughts shot out from Dongxian Huihuang's glabella and flashed into the yin and yang vortex. Not only did the collapsing yin and yang vortex become more stable, the speed and power it released became even more shocking. I, Su Fong, have more than just the blood slaughter token. Determination flashed in Su Fong's eyes. A mysterious black and white yin and yang vortex suddenly surged in his eyes, spinning counterclockwise. Swoosh! The mysterious black and white Xian Guang swept out, enveloping Su Fong and the space around him. At this moment, Su Fong had turned the situation around and controlled the fate of the heavens. The art of mediating destiny. The art of mediating destiny was a supreme ability that Su Fong had created by combining the fate-shrinking technique, the heavens divination solution, and the Tao of time. Although this superpower was created by Su Fong in the Pan-Song universe, it was based on the heavenly mystery solution and the heavenly mystery life shrinking technique, which were the two supreme heavenly mystery fate superpowers. With the great Tao of time as support, it was still considered a heaven-defying superpower in the 9 profound divine realm. After coming to the Zhishuan God realm, Su Fong could not perform this supreme ability because he had not mastered the Tao of time, his mastery of the fate-shrinking technique and the heavens divination world, and his own cultivation base. Su Fong's cultivation base had now reached the pinnacle of the upper Tao Lord realm. He had cultivated the purple fate avatar and possessed a vast vitality. His mastery of the heavens divination solution and the fate-shrinking technique had also reached new heights. In addition to the Tao of time that he had snatched from the 3 sovereign mysterious sects' disciple, Chu Feng, Su Fong had long been able to perform the art of mediating destiny. It was just that he had never had the chance to do so. As the power of the art of mediating destiny exploded, the time around Su Fong began to flow backward. His silhouette blurred rapidly and began to change continuously. From the state where he was shackled by Dongxian Huihuang, he quickly returned to the moment when he had just arrived above the Blood Lake. Dongxian Huihuang's ability was incredibly powerful, but no matter how amazing it was, it could not attack the past from the present. Su Fong's silhouette turned from illusion to reality, but he had existed half an hour ago. He was half an hour away from where Dongxian Huihuang, Dongxian Jun, and Yi Feibai were. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of essence blood. His face rapidly aged, his hair turning from black to white. At the same time, he was shrouded in a haze, exuding an aura of misfortune. QL11, he stared at Dongxian Huihuang, his gaze seeming to come from the past. Then he took out the Peach Soul sky-traversing arc and flashed into its interior. With a shocking explosion, the Peach Soul sky-traversing arc sped away and disappeared without a trace. The art of time? No, this is a supreme ability that transcends time, reversing heaven and earth, tampering with fate. What kind of ability is this? Dongxian Huihuang's gaze changed instantly, his eyes filled with disbelief. In the next moment, Dongxian Huihuang's eyes flashed with jealousy and murderous intent. Dongxian Jun was dumbfounded, unable to believe that there was actually someone who could escape from Dongxian Huihuang's supreme ability. The arrogant smile on Yi Feibai's face froze completely. Dongxian Huihuang retracted his thoughts, the yin and yang vortex dissipating as well. He looked at Yi Fei Bai and said, "Young master, although Su Fong has escaped, he has paid a heavy price for using that ability. He is already at the end of his tether. There is no need for this reputed one to make a move. With young Master Yi and junior brother Dong Xianjun's ability, it shouldn't be difficult to suppress him." Yi Fei Bai was pleasantly surprised. "Thank you, Brother Hui Wang. When the intermediate mystical tournament begins, the Yi family will definitely assist Brother Hui Wang. This reputed one still has to continue searching for that blood-refined mastiff. I shall not accompany young Master Yi." Dongxian Hui Wang nodded, his figure disappearing into the void. "Su Fong, let's see where you can escape to this time." Yi Fei Bai's eyes flashed with delight and excitement. Then, together with Dong Xianjun, they projected their sensing abilities and released their thoughts to search for Su Fong's aura. Who knew that the two of them could not find Su Fong's whereabouts, even after using all kinds of methods? Yi Fei Bai speculated, could it be that Su Fong is afraid of being hunted down, so he activated the Heaven's chosen token and escaped from the Blood Valley? Dong Xianjun frowned and said, "Very likely, but it doesn't matter. As long as he escapes from the Blood Valley, it means that he has given up on this Jiushuan Heaven's chosen token and lost the chance to become famous in the Jiushuan. Besides, he is currently heavily injured and will not recover without millions of years. With my identity, it is not difficult to deal with him. It is a pity that I cannot suppress him personally. This young master's peach soul, sky-crossing fairy is still in his hands." After Su Fong escaped from the Blood Lake, with the peach soul sky-crossing fairy speed, he escaped millions of miles away in the time difference of half an hour. Coming to the depths of a blood-colored desert, Su Fong put away the peach soul sky-crossing fairy and landed on the desert. He activated his celestial body and released the power of Earth, sinking rapidly into the depths of the desert. Sinking 1,000 feet deep, Su Fong created a formation and crushed a dozen talismans of the art of shrinking destiny. At the same time, he separated a strand of his thoughts from his celestial body and activated the Heaven's chosen token, causing the formation to become one with the entire Blood Valley. Even if Dong Xinhuang came, he would not be able to sense Su Fong's existence. Just as he sat cross-legged in the formation, Su Fong spat out another mouthful of blood. His aura became even more feeble, and the gloomy air about him thickened. Su Fong had paid a hefty price for activating the art of mediating destiny this time. His appearance, hair, and skin looked like an old man in his 60s. He had also lost a shocking amount of luck. However, at least he had escaped from Dong Xianhuang Huang. Dong Xianhuang Huang, I, Su Fong, will remember this debt. Su Fong's eyes were brimming with murderous intent. Shixian Daozu suddenly spoke. Now you should understand the gap between you and Dongxian Divine Region's top geniuses. Su Fong said, sooner or later, I will surpass Dongxian Huang Huang and step on his head to reach a higher peak. I used to do so, and I can do the same for Dongxian Huang Huang. You've suffered a setback this time, but your Dao heart hasn't changed. Instead, you become braver with every setback. Dongxian Huang Huang's talent might not be stronger than yours, but he has mastered Dongshuan's top skills and is Daozu's direct disciple. That's why he dares to attack you so recklessly. If you want to rise from Dongxian, you can only rely on yourself. This Jiushuan's chosen token is your chance. Don't miss it. This disciple understands. Thank you for your teachings, Master. Shixian Daozu's voice no longer sounded. Heaven-piercing Blood King Vine, devour life. Su Fong immediately activated the Heaven-piercing Blood King Vine, devouring the life force of the blood pigs shackled in the Dao Palace to replenish the lifespan consumed by casting the art of mediating destiny. Chapter 28:31. The blood strands of the sky-piercing Blood King Vine seeped into the bodies of the blood pigs and devoured their vitality. It was thanks to Su Fong's sky-piercing Blood King Vine that he could devour the vitality and blood of cultivators without restraint. It was even more powerful than his Acheron Blood Sea in Pongsang Universe. In addition, Su Fong also had the purple Fate Dharma body, allowing Su Fong to possess unparalleled fortune. It It was because of these two abilities that Su Fong dared to use the art of mediating destiny without restraint and win himself a chance of survival. However, the feeling of watching one's lifespan and fortune slip away was not something an ordinary cultivator could bear. If one's Tao heart was not strong enough, just experiencing this process would leave an indelible flaw in one's Tao heart. In addition, Su Fong had to thank Yi Feibai's subordinates. If it were not for these blood pigs that could continuously obtain vitality, where would he find the nutrients to restore his life in his current state? Su Fong hid in the depths of the desert and settled down in cultivation to restore his state. At the same time, he let his crimson blood avatar consume the 9 trace blood avatar continuously to increase its strength. In this blood valley, he could only rely on his crimson blood avatar, while other abilities were supplementary. At this moment, an earth-shattering change had taken place in the Blood Valley. As the space in the Blood Valley shrank, the space for the contestants and blood monsters scattered around the valley to move became smaller and smaller. The killing between contestants and blood monsters became even more intense. Contestants kept falling, and the rankings on the God's Chosen list kept changing as well. Many geniuses who were favored by various forces, including those who were ranked in the top 100, kept disappearing from the God's Chosen list. There were also some cultivators who were forced to activate the God's Chosen token and leave the Blood Valley, giving up on the Jiuquan God's Chosen list. At the same time, there were also many contestants who rose up against the heavens. Since the beginning of the elite competition, the surviving cultivators had accumulated an astonishing amount of points. The blood monsters had also become stronger after devouring the cultivators. Naturally, the points gained from killing these blood monsters were also abundant. As a result, the points gained by the contestants were even more shocking. The most shocking one was Ling Xingchen. His points had actually surpassed Gu Qianqi, the top disciple of the 3 Supremes' mysterious sects, and was catching up to Dongshuan's glory. All of a sudden, Ling Xingchen became the biggest dark horse in this competition. His name spread far and wide, and his sharpness overshadowed Gu Qianqi. His fame even surpassed the 4 geniuses of the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion. Since Su Fong's points had not changed, his ranking continued to drop. Finally, after falling out of the top 1,000, he seemed to be somewhat unknown. The chaotic state of the Blood Valley lasted for more than 500 years before it gradually stabilized. The remaining contestants were all true experts, and they were quite wary of each other. Therefore, they were even more cautious in their attacks. Apart from the true experts who were confident in their own strength, the other cultivators all targeted the blood monsters. Not only could he gain points by killing the blood monsters, but he could also quickly improve his blood evil Dharma body. This was much more practical than killing the contestants. In the depths of the bloody desert, Su Fong, who was sitting cross-legged in the middle of the formation, had finally recovered 90% of his lifespan. At this time, he looked to be about 20 years old and had completely gotten rid of his previous dispirited state. The loss of fortune from using the art of mediating destiny, as well as the dark clouds and bad luck that shrouded his aura, were also eliminated by the Purple Fate Dharma body. However, the Purple Fate Dharma body had expended a lot of energy this time as well. If there were no fortuitous encounters within a short period of time, it would be very difficult for him to recover to his previous peak state. Suddenly, the blood evil Dharma body, who was sitting cross-legged on one side of the formation, suddenly expanded and erupted with an aura. The image of a killing star quickly condensed on the blood armor. It turned out that Su Fongda had consumed the 9 trace blood evil elixir all these years, causing the blood evil Dharma body to condense another killing star. 6-star Divine General of Sanguinary Slaughter. If I can become the Divine Lord of Sanguinary Slaughter, I won't be afraid even if I face Dongxian Huiwang. It's just that becoming the Divine Lord of Sanguinary Slaughter is too difficult. Su Fong's current goal was to surpass Dongxian Huiwang. However, he knew very well that the difference in cultivation base between him and Dongxian Huiwang was too great. It was impossible for him to catch up to him in a short period of time. Facing ordinary cultivators, Su Fang's extraordinary body and ability could allow him to kill a pinnacle Downlord. However, facing a top genius like Dongxian Huiwang, the difference in cultivation base was fatal. The difference in cultivation base required time and countless resources, as well as opportunities and fortuitous encounters, to quickly catch up to Dongxian Huiwang. What Su Fang lacked now was time. Only by constantly improving his blood evil Dharma body could he catch up to Dongxian Huiwang in the shortest amount of time and even surpass him. Therefore, Su Fang wanted to become the Divine Lord of Sanguinary Slaughter very much. With the identity of the Divine Lord of Sanguinary Slaughter, his ranking on the Tianxian ranking would definitely rise greatly. Even Supreme Elder Chang's son and Supreme Elder Chunxiu would not dare to touch Su Fang, bound by Jiushuan's laws. In addition, with the Divine Lord of Sanguinary Slaughter's powerful ability, Su Fang had the ability to compete with Dongxian Huihuang in the Blood Valley, even if the latter possessed unparalleled abilities. However, how could it be so easy to become the Divine Lord of Sanguinary Slaughter? It was extremely difficult for the blood evil Dharma body to condense each killing star. If Su Fang did not rely on the 9-vein blood evil elixir and the blood evil Dharma body that could devour other cultivators, he would probably be a 3-star Divine Lord of Sanguinary Slaughter at most. Becoming the Divine Lord of Sanguinary Slaughter was countless times more difficult than becoming the Divine Lord of Sanguinary Slaughter. Next, Su Fang's blood evil Dharma body began to devour the silver vein elixir to recover the emptiness caused by the birth of the killing star. About 50 years later, rumble, an earth-shattering explosion came from the ground. Even Su Fang, who was under the desert, could sense the commotion and the formation was shaken. QL 11-inch, there are cultivators fighting? Su Fang was not surprised. He immediately activated his heaven and earth Dharma body and released the earth elemental power to permeate the ground. Then, the power of perception followed the divine power to sense the outside. Unexpectedly, it was Qin Hung and Hua Tiannu who were surrounded by 7 cultivators and engaged in an earth-shattering battle. Qin Hung and Hua Tiannu's aura was weak and their bodies were heavily injured. Qin Heng's injuries were more serious, mainly because Hua Tiannu was facing the attacks of the 7 experts alone. Hua Tiannu saw that he could not hold on and shouted, "Stop! We are cultivators of Square Sky City. All of us are Su Fang's subordinates." Su Fang's subordinates? The attacks of the 7 cultivators immediately slowed down. One of the cultivators sneered disdainfully. Su Fang was defeated by young master Yi Feibai and fled for his life like a stray dog. There's a high chance that he's either dead or escaped from Blood Valley. Su Fang's name doesn't scare us now. Hua Tiannu gritted his teeth and said, "If you want our points, we will give them all to you. Let us activate the Heaven's Chosen token and leave the Blood Valley." The cultivator in the lead laughed ghastly. "I'm sorry, but we'll take all of your points. Young Master Yi Feibai has offered a huge price, so we'll take all of your heads as well." Hua Tiannu was furious. "At most, we'll fight to the death." The 7 cultivators roared with laughter and snorted disdainfully at Hua Tiannu's words. One of the cultivators said with a smile, "You 2 fishes will die today, but our net won't be broken." Hua Tiannu and Qin Hung felt despair, and they started to prepare to burn their cultivations, quintessence, and souls as a last-ditch effort. Suddenly, a voice that revealed ghastly killing intent resounded. "The fishes won't die, but the net will be broken." At some point in time, a figure had appeared behind the 7 cultivators. These 7 cultivators were formidable experts, and the one in the lead was even more shocking. He was a peak Downlord Realm expert. That figure was less than 300 m away from them, yet they actually didn't notice it at all. That figure was a baleful blood avatar that was covered in blood armor, as if it was made from blood. The blood armor was covered in dense marks of slaughter, and there were surprisingly 6 stars of slaughter where the marks converged. A 6-star God Slaughter General. The peak Downlord in the lead revealed a slight change in his expression, and his deep eyes revealed fear. Even though a 6-star Godslaughter general hadn't become a top expert in Blood Gorge, he was a truly formidable expert, and even peak Dowlords had no choice but to fear him. The peak Dowlord cupped his fists towards the baleful blood avatar and said, "Who are you?" "I'm on young Master Yi Feibai's orders to pursue and kill these two people. I presume you know who young Master Yi Feibai is, right?" "Yi Feibai? Of course I do. I'll take his head once I've killed all of you." The baleful blood avatar was Su Fong. As soon as his voice that was filled with killing intent finished resounding through the air, a strand of supreme slaughter intent rumbled as it descended, and it pressed down towards those 7 cultivators. At this moment, Su Fong had utilized the blood slaughter token to mobilize a portion of Blood Gorge slaughter intent, and merely the pressure of his slaughter intent was difficult for those 7 cultivators to endure. Other than the peak Dao Lord leading the group, the rest Dao hearts were instantly shattered under the shocking pressure and impact of the slaughter intent. The peak Dao Lord merely held on for a dozen more breaths before he followed in the footsteps of the other cultivators. His Dao heart shattered as he collapsed to the ground. Su Fong's baleful blood avatar grabbed at the air and sucked the 7 cultivators into its internal space as if it was catching chickens. These 7 cultivators' abilities were decent, and they were just right to be used as pigs. Hua Tiannu and Qin Heng looked at Su Fong's baleful blood avatar in surprise and delight. "Master, it's you? Su Fong, is it really you?" Both of them had determined Su Fong's identity from the slash marks on Su Fong's baleful blood avatar's crimson armor. There were many 9-star Godslaughter generals in Dongxian, but there was only one who could cultivate the baleful blood avatar with 81 slash marks. "It's me." Su Fong's physical body flashed out of the crimson desert and merged with his baleful blood avatar. "What's happened? Where are the others?" Other than Qin Heng and Hua Tiannu, those who had entered Blood Gorge this time were Wu Ming, Gao Tianlei, and a dozen other talented subordinates. After entering Blood Gorge, Su Fong had not contacted these subordinates, but with the help of the slaughter token, he could still sense that they had gathered together a long time ago, so he was not worried about them. Chapter 28:32. Qin Heng said shamefully, "This subordinate is useless. 3 of us died while fighting with the other contestants. 2 of us died while hunting the blood fiends. The others..." Hua Tiannu continued, "Now Yi Feibai has put a bounty on our heads among the other contestants. Another 3 of us died in the pursuit. Wu Ming is one of them. Gao Tianlei and the rest used the token of blood slaughter to escape from the Blood Valley. Who would have thought that even Wu Ming had died?" Wu Ming was originally an expert of the Boundless Sun sect. He had been subdued by Su Fong in the 2nd city of Blood Valley, Star Killer City. He had always contributed a lot to Su Fong. Who would have thought that he would die under Yi Feibai's pursuit? Qin Heng said, "We were worried about Master's safety, so we took the risk to stay. Who knew that we would still be discovered? If it weren't for Master, both of us wouldn't have escaped death today. Yi Feibai." A fierce aura surged in Su Fong's heart, and his murderous aura soared to the sky. Qin Heng asked worriedly, "Master, they said that you were heavily injured by Yi Feibai. Did you? Yi Feibai wants to hurt me? I was ambushed by Dongxian Hui Huang and was indeed heavily injured. However, I am safe and sound now." "Dongxian Hui Huang?" Hua Tiannu was shocked and said in disbelief, "Dongxian Hui Huang is the top genius of the entire Eastern Xian Divine Domain. Even he couldn't do anything to you?" "It's just my luck," Su Fong said casually. Then he took out tens of thousands of silver vein pills, all of which were 3-veined and 6-vein pills. There were also a dozen ancient pills used to recover one's physical body and cultivation base. He let the 2 of them enter the depths of the desert and hide in the formation. "It's time to get rid of Yi Feibai." Su Fong decided to get rid of Yi Feibai first and save the ancestral Greygon. He activated the token of blood slaughter and used the Tianji Life shrinking art to sense the space of the Blood Valley. The space of the Blood Valley had shrunk to only 10 million miles. With the help of the token of blood slaughter, Su Fong could easily cover the inner space of the Blood Valley. Suddenly, The conversation between the cultivators caught Su Fang's attention. Have you heard? An extremely powerful blood-refined mastiff has appeared in the Blood Valley. It's said that if you can kill this blood monster and fuse with its baleful blood aura, you will be able to become a god lord of bloody slaughter. There's such a treasure in the Blood Valley. There are indeed a lot of treasures in the Blood Valley. I heard that Su Fang obtained a powerful divine beast when he was training in the Blood Valley. It was with the help of this divine beast that Su Fang was able to rise at such a shocking speed and become a renowned genius in Dongxian. How can the divine blood-refined mastiff be so easy to obtain? If you're not strong enough, even if you encounter the divine blood-refined mastiff, you'll only be delivering yourself to death. Do you think everyone is as lucky as Su Fang? I'd advise all of you to give up on the divine blood-refined mastiff as soon as possible. Dongxian Hui Wang has set up barriers that have trapped the divine blood-refined mastiff in the valleys. It won't be long before they're suppressed by Dongxian Hui Wang. Dongxuan's glory? The other cultivators exclaimed in shock. Since Dongxian Hui Wang has trapped the divine blood-refined mastiff, unless Dongxian Lai, Dongxian Qinyang, and Dongxian Qingwei take action, the others can forget about snatching food from Tiger's mouth. Other than Dongxian Hui Wang, the other 4 Heaven Pavilion disciples in this elite competition are already god lords of bloody slaughter. Besides, they're all Daozu's disciples. They'll never snatch Dongxian Hui Huang's divine blood-refined mastiff. It looks like the divine blood-refined mastiff is destined to fall into Dongxian Hui Huang's hands. The Blood Valley will have another god lord of bloody slaughter. Divine blood-refined mastiff. It could rapidly elevate the baleful blood avatar to god lord of bloody slaughter. It was also of crucial use to Dongxian Hui Wang. Su Fang suddenly glowed with vigor. He wanted to become a god lord of bloody slaughter so badly. This would be the thing he relied on to rise among the Zhoushuan's chosen ones. However, it was too difficult to ascend to god lord of bloody slaughter. One could not become a god lord of bloody slaughter just by relying on the Crimson Pill. Now that there was a treasure that could help a cultivator's baleful blood avatar break through to god lord of bloody slaughter, how could Su Fang not be excited? Even if I can't get the divine blood-refined mastiff, I'll destroy Dongxuan's glory. I can't let him ascend to god lord of bloody slaughter. Su Fang's eyes flashed with ruthlessness and determination. He ignored the other cultivators and temporarily gave up on killing Yifei Bai. Instead, he focused all his energy on Dongxian Hui Wang. With the help of the token of bloody slaughter, he also activated the divine fate shrinking art to sense Dongxian Hui Huang's aura of destiny. Buzz, buzz, buzz. QL11 soon. He sensed a presence that prompted the mysterious Dao runes of destiny to flash out of the Zhoushuan's Daoist palace and condense into a mirror. A lifelike figure appeared on the mirror. It was Dongxian Hui Wang. Dongxian Hui Wang was in a valley more than 1,000,000 miles away. Dongxian Hui Wang, even if I can't get the divine blood-refined mastiff this time, I won't let you succeed. Su Fang used the incandescent escape art and rushed towards the valley. When he was still 1,000 miles away from the valley, Su Fang flew into a crimson cloud in the sky. Then he projected his sensing force to sense the valley carefully. Unexpectedly, the periphery of the valley was surrounded by hundreds of cultivators. There were disciples from the Celestial Pavilion, Dongxian Jun among them, as well as disciples from the 3 sovereign mystical sects and the Luo Shao Sword sect. These cultivators had received some benefits from Dongxian Hui Wang, but they had helped Dongxian Hui Wang surround the valley. Any cultivator who approached would be warned immediately. Inside the valley, there was a powerful boundary that isolated the valley from the outside world. The boundary also had the function of isolating sensing. Once the sensing force came into contact with the boundary, it would be repelled immediately, unable to see the scene inside. This is a little troublesome. Su Fang raised his brows. After pondering for a while, Su Fang landed on the ground. His physical body began to undergo a shocking transformation. His arms, torso, and legs quickly surged with crimson patterns before turning into crimson vines. He had completely turned into a heaven-piercing Crimson King vine. The heaven-piercing Crimson King vine had undergone a metamorphosis after devouring the life force of the Crimson Pigs all these years, merging with his physical body. Su Fong could now completely transform his physical body into a Crimson King vine. The Crimson King vine slithered swiftly on the ground without a sound, like a crimson snake. Su Fong's consciousness could clearly sense everything around him. It was a wonderful feeling indeed. The Crimson Valley was filled with crimson rocks and gravel. The Crimson King vines crawled on the ground, unable to be distinguished by ordinary vision. In addition, Su Fong had also activated the Sanguine token, merging the Crimson King vine's aura with the Crimson Valley. Unless Dongxian Huihuang personally used his extraordinary sensing ability to sense Su Fong, it would be difficult to discover his existence, let alone the cultivators outside the valley. The heaven-piercing Crimson King vine that Su Fong had transformed into was extremely fast. It took him more than 6 hours to cover the distance of 1,000 miles. He only slowed down when he was close to the valley. The Crimson King vine climbed up one of the mountain ridges and hid behind a huge rock. Less than 1,000 feet away from the rock, a cultivator sat cross-legged on the mountain ridge, completely unaware of Su Fong, who was close at hand. Just as Su Fong was thinking about how to pass through the boundary and enter the valley, the Tao scripture of the Jioshuan Taoist palace's Tianji life contraction spell suddenly flickered rapidly. Su Fong Dao was shocked as he hurriedly activated the Tianji life contraction spell to sense the aura that caused the spell to flicker. Thousands of feet away from Su Fong, a crimson vine that was almost identical to the heaven-piercing Crimson King vine that Su Fong had transformed into, was releasing streaks of crimson threads that penetrated the boundary. Su Fong Dao was so shocked that his soul was trembling. The crimson vine was no ordinary heaven-piercing Crimson King vine. It was the main body of the heaven-piercing Crimson King vine that he had merged with. Su Fong had destroyed the foreign tribe's realm, crossing Mystic Gate in ancient Blue City, and had a life-and-death battle with the main body of the heaven-piercing Crimson King vine. How could he be mistaken? Who would have thought? Who would have thought that the main body of the heaven-piercing Crimson King vine had actually infiltrated the Crimson Valley and met here? Although the main body of the heaven-piercing Crimson King vine had been injured by the Jioshuan's heavenly law and the power of the realm-crossing Mystic Gate in ancient Blue City, it had also been swallowed by the Weaver Spider, and its vitality had been greatly damaged. However, it was still a top life form among the foreign tribes. With Su Fong's current strength and the heaven-piercing Crimson King vine's monstrous hatred for him, it would be strange if it didn't suck him dry if he was discovered. The heaven-piercing Crimson King vine that Su Fong had transformed into was so frightened that he curled up into a ball. He had activated the blood-killing token to the extreme, as he was afraid that the main body of the heaven-piercing Crimson King vine would discover him. Fortunately, the main body of the heaven-piercing Crimson King vine was fully focused on the boundary. As the streaks of crimson threads penetrated the boundary, its entire body finally entered the boundary and disappeared without a trace. Strange. Why did the main body of the heaven-piercing Crimson King vine enter the boundary? Could it be it also came for the blood-refining divine mastiff? Su Fong guessed the main body of the heaven-piercing Crimson King vine's purpose and couldn't help but frown. This was troublesome. Not only did he have to face a strong enemy like Dongxian Huihuang, but there was also the heaven-piercing Crimson King vine's main body, a foreign tribe expert. It was obviously impossible to obtain the blood-refining divine mastiff. However, Su Fong wasn't willing to give up just like that. Dongxian Huihuang and the main body of the heaven-piercing Crimson King vine's target is the blood-refining divine mastiff. I might have a chance if the two forces are fighting. I'll enter the boundary to take a look first. If I really can't find a chance, I can only give up. Su Fong made up his mind. The crimson vine that he had transformed into slithered forward and soon touched the strong boundary. Just like the main body of the heaven-piercing Crimson King vine, Su Fong peeled off streaks of crimson threads from the vine and penetrated the boundary. The heaven-piercing Crimson King vine had the innate ability to pierce through heaven and earth. The crimson threads easily passed through the gaps in the boundary and entered the boundary, turning back into the crimson vine form. The interior of the valley was not small, spanning nearly 100 miles. There were crimson rocks everywhere, so Su Fong could easily find a hiding spot. Using the Blood Massacre token to conceal his aura, he was not afraid of being discovered by Dongxian Hui Huang or the heaven-piercing Crimson King vine. From the depths of the valley, earth-shattering sounds of battle could be heard. Chapter 28:33. He focused his gaze. Dongxian Hui Huang released his thoughts and turned them into a divine dragon, unleashing a shocking Tao of yin and yang and a terrifying aura that could swallow everything as it fought a blood monster. The blood monster was over 100 feet long, covered in long crimson hair. It looked like a crimson tiger with 2 antlers on its head. The monster should be the Crimson Divine Mastiff, but it did not look like a Divine Mastiff at all. Instead, it looked more like a tiger. The blood monster exuded a majestic and pure aura of blood. It opened its mouth to howl angrily like a dog's bark, its voice containing a shocking will and offensive power. Even with Su Fong's Tao heart and will, she could feel Sayu's Tao heart trembling under the impact of the sound. She had to urge her Tao heart and will to release beams of rainbow light to dissolve the impact of the barking. Other than its howls, the Crimson Divine Mastiff's attack also included its claws and teeth. It waved its front claws continuously, striking out numerous blades of bloody light. As they whistled through the air, they tore numerous cracks in space. Occasionally, the blood monster would open its mouth and bite at the divine dragon formed by Dongxian Hui Huang's thoughts, conjuring the shadow of a tiger's head to tear at the divine dragon in a frenzy. Such an attack was somewhat similar to the mental attacks of human cultivators. The Crimson Divine Mastiff's ability was truly astounding. It was probably even more powerful than an ordinary mystical world's lord. Although it was at a disadvantage after fighting Dongxian Hui Huang for so long, Dongxian Hui Huang would have to put in a lot of effort to suppress it. Dongxian Hui Huang was not in a hurry, constantly releasing his thoughts into the divine dragon to deplete the Crimson Divine Mastiff's strength. At the same time, he released his thoughts continuously, turning them into Xian Guang runes that struck the Crimson Divine Mastiff and seeped into its body, causing the Crimson Divine Mastiff's aura to weaken and its attacks to become sluggish. He obviously wanted to capture the Crimson Divine Mastiff alive, so he did not perform his truly powerful abilities. In addition, the Crimson Divine Mastiff had been hunted by Dongxian Hui Huang for hundreds of years and had yet to recover from its injuries. Now that it was sealed in this valley by Dongxian Jun's barrier, it was only a matter of time before it was suppressed. Seeing that the divine blood-refined mastiff was about to fall into his hands, Dongshuan's brilliant eyes gleamed with unconcealable excitement. He said to the divine blood-refined mastiff, "You are just a monster born in the Blood Valley. The meaning of your existence is to train a genius like me. Give up on your futile struggle. You will become this seat's good fortune. Using you to complete this seat is also your good fortune." Awu, the Crimson Celestial Mastiff, obviously possessed intelligence, and it was quite intelligent as well. When it heard Dongxian Hui Huang's words, it roared angrily again. Dongxian Huang smiled. His gaze toward the divine blood-refined mastiff was filled with anticipation. "Once I merge with you, my Crimson Blood avatar will improve further and become a divine lord of sanguinity. By then, this seat will have the capital to compete with Dongxian Lai, Dongxian Xinyang, and Dongxian Xinghua. In the Jiushuan Chosen Ones, it's not impossible for me to surpass them." The more Dongxian Hui Huang spoke, the more excited he became. Surpassing the other 3 disciples had always been his greatest goal. Now that he finally had a chance to achieve his goal, how could he not be excited? "Dongxian Hui Huang, don't be too smug. You won't get the Crimson Celestial Mastiff this time." Su Fong turned into the Crimson Vine and hid 1,000 feet away. When he heard Dongxian Hui Huang's words, he was even more determined to ruin his plan. I wonder when the mother of the sky-piercing Blood King vine will strike. Su Fong did not see the mother of the sky-piercing Blood King vine, so he used the art of contraction to sense the mother's presence. Who knew? Su Fong did not sense the mother of the sky-piercing Blood King vine. But on the other side of the valley, he sensed a presence that prompted the art of contraction to flash rapidly. Who would have thought? There was a silhouette hiding in a cave, and it was someone Su Fong was familiar with. Ling Xingchen. Su Fong was surprised. Ling Xingchen is hiding in the cave, obviously not to help Dongxian Hui Wang, but to seize the opportunity to seize the divine blood-refined mastiff. How dare Ling Xingchen snatch the treasure that Dongxian Hui Wang is so determined to have? What Su Fong did not know was that Ling Xingchen had obtained some kind of shocking fortune in the Blood Valley that allowed him to shine in this elite competition and make his name known everywhere. Ling Xingchen's ranking on the God-chosen list had surpassed Gu Tianqi and was not far from Dongxian Hui Wang's points. With such astounding ability, Ling Xingchen was naturally qualified to have designs on the divine blood-refined mastiff and snatch it from Dongxian Hui Wang's mouth. I hope Ling Xingchen and the sky-piercing Blood King vine can create an opportunity for me. Su Fong hid behind the rock patiently, waiting for the opportunity to strike. Half a day later, the divine blood-refined mastiff's presence grew weaker, its attacks weaker than before. However, Dongxian Hui Wang had obviously expended a lot of energy as well. His aura was weak, and his mental attacks were not as fierce as before. Suddenly, Dongxian Hui Wang laughed loudly. It's time to end this. Divine blood-refined mastiff, you're destined to be Dongxian Hui Wang's fortune. Then, he suddenly formed a seal. Seals surged out of the divine blood-refined mastiff's body and weaved together to form a powerful seal, shackling the divine blood-refined mastiff. The divine blood-refined mastiff was shackled, letting out a whimper filled with despair. It could no longer launch any attacks and fell to the ground, unable to move anymore. It's finally here. Dongxian Hui Wang was overjoyed, grabbing at the air and about to grab the divine blood-refined mastiff. At this moment, a thought flashed out from the side, bursting with a spatial aura that wrapped around the divine blood-refined mastiff and flew it towards the cave. Who dares to snatch this reputed once supreme treasure? Dongxian Hui Wang's divine light flickered, but he was unfazed. He released strands of thought that turned into a long river of intertwined black and white Xianguang, charging at the spatial aura. Boom! The valley shook violently. Countless rocks were swept away by the impact of the collision, turning into dust. Su Fong was affected as well, buried under the shattered rocks. He dared not move, allowing the rocks to bury him. Ling Xingchen's spatial aura shattered, and the shackled divine, blood-refined mastiff fell to the ground. Dongxian Hui Wang looked at Ling Xingchen, who flew out of the cave, disbelief flashing in his deep eyes. Ling Xingchen, it's you? Ling Xingchen said, domineeringly. That's right, it's me. Dongxian Hui Wang. I've taken a fancy to the divine, blood-refined mastiff. Leave quickly. I won't make things difficult for you. The current Ling Xingchen was very different from before. Ling Xingchen was extraordinary, but that was only relative to ordinary cultivators. Compared to Dongxian Hui Wang, be it ability or status, he was not on the same level as Dongxian Hui Wang. In the past, when he saw Dongxian Hui Wang, he would try his best to please and compliment him. Who would have thought that he would be so domineering and arrogant in front of Dongxian Hui Wang today? He seemed to have changed completely, giving Su Fong a strange feeling. Dongxian Hui Wang said in a low voice, Ling Xingchen, do you know the consequences of snatching this reputed one's fortune? Ling Xingchen said coldly, consequences? Of course, this reputed one will get the divine blood-refined mastiff. If you don't know what's good for you, you'll be suppressed by this reputed one as well. I didn't expect it. I really didn't expect that you, Ling Xingchen, are actually a maniac. I'd like to see what ability you have to snatch the divine, blood-refined mastiff away. Even this reputed one will be suppressed by you. Dongxian Hui Wang laughed out of extreme anger, releasing his thoughts to kill Ling Xingchen. Ling Xingchen released his thoughts as well, unleashing the will of heaven to suppress Dongxian Hui Huang's will. At the same time, he unleashed his powers of time and space. QL11, the power that Ling Xingchen unleashed now was no different from what he had used before. However, his current ability had surpassed the limit of a Taoist master. Although he had not reached the height of a mystical world's lord, he was 100 times stronger than his previous ability. What kind of fortune did Ling Xingchen obtain to have his ability soar to such heights in such a short time? Su Feng, who was hiding under the rock ruins, was surprised and shocked when he sensed Ling Xingchen's ability. He dared not act recklessly. Just Dongxian Huiwang alone was not something Su Feng could deal with. Ling Xingchen was unfathomable, and the mother of the heaven-piercing Blood King vine had yet to show itself. How could Su Feng not be cautious? Ling Xingchen and Dongxian Huiwang engaged in an earth-shattering battle. The valley began to crumble, while the boundary surrounding the valley was shaken and began to shatter. What should I do? Should I continue to wait, or should I use the art of shrinking life while Dongxian Huiwang and Ling Xingchen fight to snatch the divine blood-refined mastiff away by force? Su Feng was waiting for an opportunity, but he could not find a suitable one. Dongxian Huiwang and Ling Xingchen fought each other, but Su Feng, as a bystander, could hardly benefit from it. Suddenly, the divine blood-refined mastiff that was shackled to the ground suddenly roared. A shocking air of blood surged out of its body, shattering the shackles and seals on it. Then, it sprung up from the ground and pounced towards the boundary. Boom! The mastiff viciously slammed into the barrier and was immediately sent flying. It fell to the ground once more. Dongxian Huiwang was surprised at first, but he sneered disdainfully. How can you break the formation that I've personally created for you? Wait until I kill Ling Xingchen, then I'll shackle you again. The divine, blood-refined mastiff sprung up from the ground again and slammed into the boundary once more. The result was that it could not break through the boundary. Instead, its body was crushed and the air of blood drained from its body. Subsequently, the divine blood-refined mastiff attacked the boundary a dozen more times, but it was all in vain. Only then did Dongxian Huiwang relax and focus on the battle with Ling Xingchen. Oh, the divine blood-refined mastiff seemed to have lost its rationality as it charged towards the boundary again. This time, the divine blood-refined mastiff's body expanded rapidly the moment it came into contact with the boundary, growing from 100 feet to 200 feet, 300 feet, all the way to 500 feet. Then, the divine blood-refined mastiff's body began to shrink abruptly as crimson flames surged out of its body. Oh no, the divine blood-refined mastiff wants to self-destruct. Chapter 28:34. Seeing that the mastiff was about to explode, Dongxian Huiwang abandoned Ling Xingchen and released 500 strands of thought, turning them into a yin and yang vortex that enveloped the mastiff in a flash. However, he was still a step too late. Boom! The divine blood-refined mastiff's body suddenly exploded. The shocking impact and violent, chaotic eruption of power struck the barrier. The surrounding yin and yang vortices shattered under the force of the explosion. The barrier collapsed, and the entire valley was flattened. Puffed! Dongxian Huihuang's 500 strands of thought were destroyed. He was severely injured and spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, the aftershock of the explosion swept over. Dongxian Huiwang hurriedly deployed a defense, causing him to stagger. Ling Xingchen was also swept away by the force of the explosion, his body flung away. The cultivators outside the valley and a dozen people who were close to the barrier were killed on the spot. The others were also affected and were heavily injured. It was fortunate that the barrier and Dongxian Huihuang's supreme ability had neutralized most of the force of the mastiff's explosion. Otherwise, not many cultivators around the valley would have survived. How unlucky! Su Feng, who was hiding in the rock ruins, was unavoidably affected as well. Much of his crimson vines were shattered, and he was heavily injured as well. Before the aftershock of the mastiff's explosion dissipated, a crimson glow quickly condensed and turned into a new mastiff. The mastiff could actually recover quickly after the explosion and form a new body. It was once again beyond Dongxian Hui Huang's expectations. However, after the explosion, the mastiff's aura was obviously weakened. Its body had shrunk from 100 feet to 50 to 60 feet tall. The mastiff's crimson glow flashed, and it was about to escape. Swish! An illusory and ethereal thread sank into the mastiff's head. Life's thread of karma. It was Su Fang's heavenly secret life, shrinking techniques, supreme, divine ability. Life, pulling karma line. He had no intention of suppressing the mastiff. With Dongxian Hui Huang, Ling Xingchen, the heaven-traversing Blood King Vine's mother that had yet to show itself, and hundreds of disciples from Heaven Pavilion and the three highest mysterious sects, Su Fang could hardly escape from so many experts, even if he captured the mastiff. First, he would plant karma on the divine blood-refined mastiff. When it escaped, he would wait for the right opportunity to capture it. Naturally, it would be much easier. Su Fang's life's thread of karma targeted the ethereal fate. Not only did Dongxian Hui Huang and Ling Xingchen fail to notice it, even the crimson celestial mastiff did not notice it. The entire process was completed in the blink of an eye. As soon as the life-pulling karma thread was planted in the fate of the mastiff flashed and vanished into nothingness. The divine blood-refined mastiff was a blood monster born in the Blood Valley. Its aura had fused with the Blood Valley world, making it very difficult to capture its aura. The cooked duck had flown away. Dongxian Hui Huang was taken aback before he roared furiously at Ling Xingchen. Ling Xingchen, you've ruined this reputed one's plan. This reputed one is not human if I don't skin you alive. Immediately, he released his thoughts and performed the supreme yin-yang ultimate technique. Don't even think about getting the treasure that I can't get. Ling Xingchen snorted inexplicably. Before Dongxian Hui Huang's divine aura could envelop him, he performed the Space Dao skill and fled. Even if you can fly into the sky or burrow into the ground, I will still kill you. Dongxian Hui Huang's supreme fortune that was about to be as it slipped away right under his nose because of Ling Xingchen's sabotage. How could he let Ling Xingchen go so easily? He immediately used his movement technique to teleport away. The other cultivators were shocked and bewildered. After some discussion, they left quickly as well. About a month later, a crimson vine crawled out of the valley that had turned into ruins. After wriggling for hundreds of miles on the ground, the crimson vine shrunk rapidly and turned into Su Fang's physical body. Dongxian Hui Huang didn't get the divine blood-refined mastiff. How satisfying, how satisfying. Su Fang was not at all pleased. Dongxian Hui Huang had almost shackled Su Fang, forcing him to perform the art of mediating destiny to escape. Now that Dongxian Hui Huang's efforts were in vain, how could he not be pleased? In addition, Su Fang had planted the life-binding thread in the divine blood-refined mastiff's fate. As long as he was willing, he could find the mastiff at any time. Although it might be troublesome to suppress it, the divine blood-refined mastiff's fate would not be able to escape Su Fang's control. Sooner or later, it would be suppressed by Su Fang. Su Fang was filled with anticipation. With the divine blood-refined mastiff, there's hope for me to become the Lord of Sanguinity. When that time comes, I'll settle the old score with Dongxian Hui Huang. At the same time, Su Fang was greatly puzzled. How did Ling Xingchen's ability suddenly skyrocket and become so powerful? Also, why didn't the sky-piercing Blood King Vine's mother make a move in the Blood Valley? Puzzlement aside, Su Fang did not dwell on it since he could not figure it out. He only needed to be careful of Ling Xingchen and the sky-piercing Blood King Vine's mother. Subsequently, Su Fang began to consume medicinal pills and the vitality of the blood boar to recover. When he was in the valley, he was also injured by the aftershock of the divine blood-refined mastiff self-destruction. Another 3 months passed. Su Fang began to sense the divine blood-refined mastiff's fate. Unexpectedly, he learned some unexpected news from the other contestants. Dongxian Hui Huang did not capture the divine blood-refined mastiff, nor did he pursue Ling Xingchen. He began to issue a reward in the Blood Valley to search for the whereabouts of the divine, blood-refined mastiff and Ling Xingqian. The reward was astounding. Whoever could provide the whereabouts of the divine, blood-refined mastiff and Ling Xingqian, Dongxian Huiwang, would offer a supreme-grade Xian Bao as the reward. In the beginning, the cultivators who searched for the divine, blood-refined mastiff and Ling Xingqian flocked like ducks. Little did they know, after the divine, blood-refined mastiff escaped from Dongxian Huiwang's hands, it was as if it had completely evaporated. Not only the ordinary cultivators, but even Dongxian Huiwang could not sense its presence. Ling Xingqian, on the other hand, displayed his powerful ability and ruthless methods, killing hundreds of cultivators. No one dared to search for his whereabouts anymore. In addition, Ling Xingqian was skilled in the Tao of space, so his ability had become immensely powerful. Even Dongxian Huiwang could not catch him. As the end of the elite competition approached, most of the cultivators became more cautious in their actions, except for those who had accumulated quite a lot of points and were worried that they would not be able to enter the finals and were still hunting the Blood Fiends. In the central region of the Blood Valley, due to the contraction of the Blood Valley space, a towering mountain rose in the central region. 3 cultivators sat cross-legged at the peak of the mountain. They were Dongxian Lai, Dongxian Qinyang, and Dongxian Qingwei, the 3 great disciples of the Eastern Profound Pavilion. The elite competition was about to end, so they had stopped fighting long ago. Besides, there were no worthy opponents in the Blood Valley. Their opponents in the finals were the peerless geniuses from other divine realms. Junior brother Huihuang's luck is really bad. The divine, blood-refined mastiff that was about to be in his hands actually escaped. That's because he was too eager for instant success. He was too eager to become the divine lord of bloody slaughter and surpass us. He didn't know that even if he caught the divine, blood-refined mastiff and ascended to become the divine lord of bloody slaughter, the gap between him and us would still be insurmountable. The divine, blood-refined mastiff is a spiritual creature born from the core of the Blood Valley. It can't be compared to ordinary blood fiends. If junior brother Huiwang had really obtained it, it would have been a metamorphosis for him. What a pity. What's there to pity? The divine, blood-refined mastiff isn't very useful to us divine lords of bloody slaughter. Besides, junior brother Huiwang had his eyes on it first. It wasn't our place to make a move. Now that he's lost it, there's nothing to pity. The 3 top geniuses of the Heavenly Pavilion communicated secretly with their spirits. They were full of praise for the divine, blood-refined mastiff. Junior brother Huihuang's talent is extraordinary. It's a pity that his vision is too narrow and his vision is too narrow. Naturally, it's difficult for him to surpass us. That Ling Xingqian, on the other hand, is a little strange. He's just a special disciple of the 3 highest profound sects. It's really strange that he could reach the same height as junior brother Huihuang in such a short time. Perhaps he's obtained a supreme fortune in the Blood Valley. However, this person's future achievements will be limited. I think he's not as good as Su Fong. Su Fong? This child is extraordinary. It's a pity that his cultivation time is too short and he's too reckless. He's offended too many factions and experts. He'll definitely die prematurely in the future. How many geniuses die prematurely in the Eastern Xian Divine Domain? One more is nothing. QL11, senior brother Qinyang, what kind of genius do you think will come to Dongxian in the finals when the Blood Valley and other divine domains are connected? On a ridge, Su Fong used the art of shrinking life to sense the divine, blood-refined mastiff's destiny. BZZT, BZZT. Before he could sense the divine, blood-refined mastiff, 2 very familiar presences caused the runes of the art of shrinking life to flicker. Dongxian Jun, Yi Fei Bai. Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. He actually ran into the 2 of them. Since I've run into them, I'll take care of them while I'm at it. Su Fong's eyes flashed with ruthlessness as he flew in the direction of Dongxian Jun and Yi Fei Bai. Arriving at a mountain range, Su Fong carefully concealed his presence and stopped outside a cave halfway up the mountain. Su Fong sensed Dongxian Jun and Yi Feibai's destiny presences in this cave. Su Fong couldn't help frowning when he sensed carefully again. It turned out that the interior of this cave was a huge karst cave. Other than Dong Xinjun and Yi Feibai, there were more than 30 other cultivators. They were all geniuses from various factions in the Eastern Xian Divine Domain. They obviously wanted to wait here until the end of the elite competition. What should I do? I can't kill so many people all at once. As long as one of them escapes, the news will be leaked. Even if I kill Dong Xinjun and Yi Feibai, it'll bring me a lot of trouble. It was indeed very troublesome. Dong Xinjun was a genius of Heaven Pavilion and a powerful figure ranked in the top 20. If the higher-ups of Heaven Pavilion knew that Dong Xinjun had died at the hands of Su Fong, they would never let Su Fong go. Yi Feibai was even more troublesome. He came from a Yi clan, one of the 5 divine tribes of Middle Xian. Su Fong didn't know how powerful the Yi clan was, but since Yi Feibai dared to be so arrogant in the Eastern Xian Divine Domain, and even Dong Xinjun had to curry favor with him, it was obvious that the Yi clan was no ordinary cultivation clan. Chapter 2835. I can only wait for my chance. Su Fong had no choice but to find a place in the mountain range to wait for his chance. At the same time, he kept using the divine fate shrinking art to sense the aura of destiny of the Mastiff. If he could find the Mastiff, he would naturally prioritize it. As for killing Yi Feibai and Dong Xinjun, there would be plenty of chances in the future. As for the ancestral Gragon who was restrained by Yi Feibai, Su Fong was not too worried. Yi Feibai had suppressed it to make it his mount. At least the ancestral Gragon's life was not in danger now. He waited for about a month. Buzz, buzz, buzz. As the Tao runes of the divine fate shrinking art flickered rapidly, an invisible thread connected Su Fong's Jiuquan Tao palace to nothingness, trembling slightly. The Mastiff is nearby. Su Fong was surprised and delighted, his heart thumping wildly. He immediately activated the divine fate shrinking art and the sanguine token to sense the Mastiff's exact location. Very soon, Su Fong discovered the divine blood-refined Mastiff in the void over 50 miles away. This monster was almost suppressed by Dong Xianhuang last time and was forced to self-detonate to escape. Now, it was extremely cautious. It had actually used its innate ability to merge its aura and form with the space of the Blood Valley. It was no wonder that Dong Xianhuang could not find it. If Su Fong had not planted the life, pulling karma thread in its destiny and the sanguine token, it would have been difficult to sense its existence. The blood monsters transformed and became stronger by devouring the lives of cultivators. Therefore, human cultivators were the most delicious food in the blood monster's consciousness, as well as the nutrients that could make them stronger. The Mastiff's vitality was greatly damaged by the self-detonation last time. Now that it was hiding in nothingness, it was obviously attracted by the cultivators in the karst cave and wanted to devour them to recover. However, this monster was very wary of the cultivators and did not dare to enter the karst cave. It lingered nearby, waiting for an opportunity to attack the cultivators. The chance is finally here. Su Fong's eyes flickered with a hearty light. He was in high spirits. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Activating the heavenly secret life shrinking technique, the life-pulling karma thread trembled slightly. Su Fong's will also quietly influence the blood-refined divine Mastiff's fate, along with the life-pulling karma thread. In order to prevent alarming the divine blood-refined Mastiff, Su Fong did not fully activate the life-pulling karma thread to directly control its fate. Instead, he exerted a slight influence on it. The divine blood-refined Mastiff was already drooling over the cultivators in the cave. At this moment, under the influence of the life-connecting karma thread, it no longer hesitated and could not help but escape from the void. With a flash, it teleported to the entrance of the cave and then pounced into the cave. In an instant, the exclamations of the cultivators and the roars of the divine blood-refined Mastiff came from inside the cave. Although those cultivators were all extraordinary geniuses, how could they be a match for the blood-refined divine Mastiff? After the 5 cultivators were killed by the divine blood-refined mastiff, the other cultivators were scared out of their wits. They all fled from the cave. Su Fang's target was Yi Fei Bai, and Dong Xinjun was secondary. Therefore, he secretly influenced the divine blood-refined mastiff's consciousness and pounced on Yi Fei Bai. Only then did Dong Xinjun and the other cultivators escape the cave. They did not dare to stay for a moment longer. They all used their fastest speed and quickly fled the mountain range. The Yi Fei Bai was also extraordinary. Facing the divine blood-refined mastiff's attack, he used the Yi clan's supreme ability, the substitution of plum and peach corpse technique. He separated a clone from his body that had the same aura and appearance as his original body. Last time, Yi Fei Bai could use this ability to escape the attack of Su Fang's Thunder of Destiny. It was evident how extraordinary this ability was. The divine blood-refined mastiff opened its mouth and bit down. The shadow of a tiger's head roared out and bit the clone formed by Yi Fei Bai's ability into pieces. Meanwhile, Yi Fei Bai's original body took the opportunity to escape from the cave. Who knew? Yi Fei Bai had just escaped from the cave. Before he could heave a sigh of relief, a supreme will of the Blood Valley suddenly descended and enveloped him within. The astonishing pressure of the will and the shackles of the law caused Yi Fei Bai's Tao heart to almost collapse. His body could not move at all. Su Fang had the blood-killing token and was constantly comprehending the Blood Valley's law. Yi Fei Bai had just used the Yi clan's ability and was in a dispirited state. Yet, he was easily shackled by Su Fang. Yi Fei Bai saw Su Fang's towering figure and was surprised and shocked. Su Fang, it's actually you. How is this possible? Weren't you heavily injured and escaped from the Blood Valley? Moreover, you can recover to such an extent in such a short time. You're not dead. How can I, Su Fang, leave the Blood Valley? Su Fang looked at Yi Fei Bai with eyes full of killing intent. Yi Fei Bai gave up resisting. He did not have the ability to do so now. He gritted his teeth and snorted coldly. Now that I am in your hands, I have no choice but to admit defeat. Why don't you make a bid? Although this person was arrogant and unruly, he was not an idiot or a foppish person. On the contrary, he was extremely scheming and shrewd. Currently, he was trapped in Su Fang's shackles. In order to escape, Yi Fei Bai purposely stalled for time. He hoped that the blood-refining divine mastiff would kill its way out of the karst cave after devouring the 5 cultivators that it had just killed. At that time, he would have an opportunity to take advantage of. Su Fang saw through Yi Fei Bai's thoughts and sneered in his heart. He did not expose him and said coldly, "How much can young master Yezhed be worth?" Yi Fei Bai said, "Xian Bao, cultivation technique, divine ability, or whatever else you want. My clan does not lack these treasures." Su Fang sneered and said, "I, Su Fang, do not lack any treasures. I just want your head." Yi Fei Bai sneered domineeringly. "You probably do not know what the mystic Yi clan means. If you dare to kill me, it is equivalent to digging your own grave. I advise you to think carefully before making a decision. If I let you go, will you let me go?" Su Fang sneered. "You destroyed my Tao companion's face and killed my subordinates. You are destined to die. Even if I give you a king-grade Xian Bao, it will not be able to exchange for your life." At this moment, the blood-refining divine mastiff flashed out of the karst cave. Yi Fei Bai was overjoyed. "Su Fang, if you do not want to be devoured by this powerful blood monster, let me go obediently. If the two of us work together, we might still have a chance to survive. Yi Fei Bai, you are about to die, but you still do not know how you died. How sad." Su Fang shook his head and sneered. He raised his right arm. His entire arm immediately turned into a blood vine and shot towards Yi Fei Bai, covering his head in an instant. The blood-refining divine mastiff looked at Su Fang and kept roaring. However, there was an instinctive fear in its deep eyes. Its entire body was trembling. Su Fang was now the blood-refining divine mastiff's fate. How could it not be afraid and let Su Fang deal with Yi Fei Bai? Why? Why isn't the blood-refining divine mastiff attacking you? Yi Fei Bai's wishful thinking had completely failed. He cried out in shock and despair. "TSK, TSK, TSK." The blood vine quickly penetrated Yi Fei Bai's head and into his Dao palace, sweeping out the ancestral Gragon that was shackled in his Dao palace and his storage ring. Then, Su Fong contracted the blood vine and sucked the ancestral Gragon and the storage ring into his body. Unravel heaven's mystery, disrupt heaven's mystery. Then, Su Fong used unravel heaven's mystery to disrupt heaven's mystery, messing up the surrounding heaven's mystery. In this way, even if he used chrono flow to turn back time, all he could see was chaos and no clues could be discerned. Blood-refining divine mastiff, devour this person. Be quick, Dongshuan's glory is about to arrive. Su Fong used life-shortening art and transmitted his thoughts to the blood-refining divine mastiff through the life-raining thread. Then, Su Fong left the mountain range swiftly with a flash. The blood-refining divine mastiff's eyes were filled with confusion. It then let out a furious roar and sucked Yi Fei Bai into its mouth. Whoosh! A thought tore through the air and turned into a silhouette. It was Dongshuan's glory. Dongshuan's glory had once offered a reward to track down the blood-refining divine mastiff's whereabouts. The cultivators who had escaped would definitely report to him when they had calmed down. It was precisely because of this that Su Fong didn't directly suppress the divine blood-refined mastiff, and he wanted to rely on the divine blood-refined mastiff to kill Yi Fei Bai instead. In this way, he would be completely unrelated to this matter. How? Before Dongshuan's glorious thought could unleash its power, the blood-refining divine mastiff, who had been on guard, let out a furious howl and charged at Dongshuan's glorious thought before turning into a beam of crimson light and disappearing into the void. D****. The blood-refining divine mastiff has escaped again. Dongshuan's glorious thought tore through the air and reappeared from the void a moment later, turning into Dongshuan's glory. As Yi Fei Bai met with mishap, Xian Guang shot out from the eyes of Dongshuan's glorious thought's silhouette, landing at the entrance of the cave and its surroundings. The changing images in his eyes were the scene of Yi Fei Bai being swallowed by the blood-refining divine mastiff. Everything that had happened before this was a mess, and it was impossible to continue deducing. Yi Fei Bai was indeed killed by the blood-refining divine mastiff. Strange, why can't I deduce what happened before? Dongshuan's glorious thought was perplexed. Perhaps there's something else to Yi Fei Bai's death. Forget it. This has nothing to do with me. Yi Fei Bai died in the mouth of the blood-refining divine mastiff. Even if the Middle Xian Yi clan investigates, it has nothing to do with me. Yi Fei Bai can only blame himself for being too unlucky. It's a pity that he has broken his promise. He can only rely on himself in the Jiushuan Divine Domain Tournament. Thinking of this, Dongshuan's glorious thought dissipated and turned into a beam of divine light that tore through the sky. Su Fong did not go far. He hit 1,000 miles away and executed the divine fate shrinking art. At the same time, he activated the heaven's chosen token to conceal his presence. With Dongshuan's ability, there was no difference between being 1,000 miles away and being right in front of him, but he could not discover Su Fong's existence. Su Fong maintained his sense of the blood-refining divine mastiff with a life-raining thread. After Dongshuan's glorious departure, he immediately chased after the blood-refining divine mastiff. Dallas City. Yi Fei Bai's death had caused his name to vanish from the Heaven's Chosen God list. The others did not have much of a reaction. Although Yi Fei Bai was ranked first in the elimination round, it was because many true geniuses did not participate in the elimination round, allowing him to be ranked first temporarily. After the start of the elite tournament, Yi Fei Bai's position was swiftly replaced by others. Due to being injured by Su Fong previously, his ability was greatly diminished, and his ranking quickly fell beyond the top 100. It was only with Dong Xinjun's help that his ranking was not so bad. Chapter 28:36. The Middle Mystic Leaf Clan. Ordinary cultivators and forces did not understand what the Middle Mystic Leaf Clan meant, but these heavyweights were well aware of it. In the Jiushuan God realm, the Middle Mystic realm reigned supreme. The Middle Mystic 5 divine clans were extremely powerful. Even the East Mystic Pavilion would not easily offend one of the clans. Instead, they would try their best to befriend them. Cultivators from the Heaven Pavilion would be inferior to the disciples of the 5 divine clans in the Middle Mystic divine realm. The Yi clan was one of the Middle Mystic 5 divine clans, ranked 3rd. Did Yi Fei Bai lose his life or escape from the Blood Valley with the Heaven's chosen token? The crowd discussed fervently. Soon, news came back that Yi Fei Bai had entered the Blood Valley with Dong Xinjun from Dallas City's dojo and had yet to return. This meant that Yi Fei Bai had lost his life and did not escape the Blood Valley. Grand Elder Zhang Sun of the 3 profound sects stroked his white beard and said in a low voice, Yi Fei Bai is a direct descendant of the Middle Mystic Leaf clan. If he dies in the Eastern Mystic Divine Realm, the Yi clan will definitely come to investigate. What should we do? Supreme Elder Chinchio understood Grand Elder Zhang Sun's meaning and said, according to what I know, Yi Fei Bai has a death feud with Su Fong and was even injured by Su Fong. If he dies in the Blood Valley, it must be Su Fong who killed him. Grand Elder Zhang Sun nodded and said, that's right. Su Fong has brought great trouble to Dongxian. When he walks out of the Blood Valley, he must be suppressed and handed over to the Middle Mystic Leaf clan. The other heavyweights in the hall fell silent. Even a blind person could see the intentions of Supreme Elder Chuanxiu and Grand Elder Zhang Sun. Both of them had pinned the cause of Yi Fei Bai's death on Su Fong's head. They were obviously framing him. One of them was a higher-up of the Heaven Pavilion, while the other was a Grand Elder of the 3 profound sects. But they were using such methods to suppress Su Fong, a mere Dao Lord Cultivator. It was truly shameful. An expert could not help saying, if Yi Fei Bai is killed by other participants, his points will definitely be taken by the killer. Why don't we look at the changes in the chosen list before making a conclusion? That's right, that's how it should be. Many experts stared at the chosen god list in the sky above Dallas City. On the chosen god list, other than Yi Fei Bai's name disappearing, there were no other unusual changes. Su Fong's ranking remained the same. They were now ranked in the top 1,000. It seems that Yi Fei Bai's death has nothing to do with Su Fong. He was most likely killed by the blood monster. When the elite competition is over, the truth will be revealed. It's too early to make a conclusion now. Although Yi Fei Bai is a disciple of the Middle Xinyi clan, he entered the Blood Valley to participate in the Jiushuan Heaven selection as a participant. Could it be that because of his status, our Eastern Profound Divine Domain has to send experts to be his bodyguards during the elite competition? This is Jiushuan's God's chosen one. If Dongshuan's cultivators can die, why can't Zhongshuan Ye's disciples die? The big shots in the hall discussed animatedly. High Holiness Spring Autumn and Grand Elder Changsun were speechless. About 3 years later, Su Fong finally caught up to the Crimson Divine Mastiff at the edge of the Blood Valley, near the Blood Valley's barrier, with the help of the life's thread of karma. Come out, Su Fong shouted coldly into the void. BZZT, BZZT, BZZT. The life's thread of karma trembled as the Crimson Divine Mastiff tumbled out of the void. Oh, whoa. The Crimson Divine Mastiff also realized that the end was near. It let out a furious howl, attacking Su Fong's Dao heart and will. It then pounced at Su Fong, intending to devour Su Fong directly. Your fate is now in my control. No matter how strong you are, how can you change fate? Su Fong remained unmoved in the face of the Crimson Divine Mastiff's attack. The life's thread of karma trembled continuously. Driven by the power of fate, the Crimson Divine Mastiff's will and consciousness were no longer under its control. The barks that attacked the Dao heart were like water without a source, vanishing before they could reach Su Fong. Its body also paused, and its blood-red eyes revealed a hint of struggle. What a blood monster! Its will is actually so strong. Su Fong had no choice but to continue using the life-shrinking technique to control the Crimson Divine Mastiff's fate through the life's thread of karma. In terms of strength, the Crimson Divine Mastiff was much stronger than Su Fong. if not for the fact that it was forced to self-destruct and suffered a great loss in strength. Su Fong would not have been able to control its fate even if he had the life-shrinking technique. Even though the Crimson Divine Mastiff's vitality was greatly damaged, it was still quite difficult for Su Fong to control its fate. Buzz, buzz. As the life's thread of karma trembled, the Crimson Divine Mastiff's eyes gradually revealed signs of submission. Its resistance and pain also disappeared. But at the same time, with every tremble of the life's thread of karma, Su Fong would have more white hair, and his face would also become older. Heaven-piercing Blood King Vine, inject the power of life. Su Fong urged the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine to crazily devour the power of life of those blood pigs, to make up for the rapid loss of life. In order to suppress the Crimson Divine Mastiff, he no longer had any scruples. One cultivator after another was directly sucked into a dried corpse, and the majestic power of life madly poured into his body. Su Fong's life aura became weak and majestic in one moment. It was extremely strange. During this process, Su Fong also suffered unparalleled torture. Fight! Su Fong's face was full of determination and madness. A great opportunity was right in front of him, but he had to rely on his own efforts to fight for it. This continued for 30 minutes. It was only when the Crimson Divine Mastiff completely gave up resisting and allowed Su Fong to control its fate that Su Fong finally stopped. Su Fong used the Sanguine Token as the source and combined it with the Crimson Avatar's thoughts to condense a seal seed and inject it into the Crimson Divine Mastiff's body. After sucking the Crimson Divine Mastiff into the Taoist palace and sealing it, Su Fong heaved a long sigh of relief. His hair was already white now, and his age had also become over 50 years old. His aura had become weak. This was the result of him using the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine to continuously extract the power of life from those blood pigs to replenish his life. Otherwise, the life lost from activating the life-shrinking art this time would be enough to turn him into a pile of ashes. Then he looked inside the Taoist palace. There were more than 30 blood pigs in total. This time, 12 of them had their lives sucked dry by the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine and turned into dried corpses. The loss was huge. However, compared to the Crimson Divine Mastiff, these losses were almost negligible. Wiping away the beads of sweat on his forehead, Su Fong's eyes glowed brightly, and he was in high spirits. The Crimson Divine Mastiff was finally in his hands. Su Fong had obtained the Crimson Divine Mastiff that Dongxian Glory had racked their brains to obtain. Moreover, with the help of the Crimson Divine Mastiff, he could attempt to become the Lord of Sanguine Slaughter, causing the Crimson Avatar's ability to skyrocket. He would then have the capital to aim for a higher ranking in the upcoming finals of the Blood Valley. At the same time, once one possessed the title of Lord of Sanguine Slaughter, one would be listed in the Tianxian ranking and receive the protection of Zhou laws. Su Fong was already listed in the Tianxian ranking's yellow ranking. If he were to become the Lord of Sanguine Slaughter, it would be enough to elevate his ranking on the Tianxian ranking greatly. It was even possible for him to be listed in the Xian ranking. This way, he would receive more protection from Zhou laws. Even if the Supreme Elder Zhang Sun and the Supreme Elder Chunqiu dared to attack him, the consequences would be enough to make them lose a layer of skin even if they did not die. This was the benefit of becoming the Lord of Sanguine Slaughter. With so many benefits, how could Su Fong not be excited? There's not much time left until the end of the elite competition. While recovering my life, I'll fuse with the Crimson Divine Mastiff. Su Fong found a mountain peak near the Blood Valley's barrier and opened a temporary cave abode on the mountain peak. After some arrangements, he began to cultivate in the cave abode. The lifespan consumed this time was astonishing. However, Su Fong now had the means to recover his life, so he naturally did not have to worry about it. He activated the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine and took turns to devour the life force of those blood pigs. At the same time, it also devoured elixirs. The Mystic Yang avatar continuously poured Mystic Yang aura into his physical body. This was equivalent to a three-pronged approach. The speed of his life recovery was naturally astonishing. At the same time, Su Fong released the Crimson Avatar and released the Crimson Divine Mastiff from the Dao Palace. The Crimson Avatar released the Crimson Divine Mastiff's aura and thoughts, which enveloped the Crimson Divine Mastiff and constantly seeped into its body. Not only was the Crimson Divine Mastiff shackled by Su Fong, but its fate was also controlled by Su Fong. Although it still maintained its consciousness, it allowed Su Fong's Crimson Divine Mastiff's aura to seep into its body. Not only did it not resist, it even actively cooperated with Su Fong. Then, Su Fong controlled the Crimson Avatar and used the mantra that Xian Daozu had given him. He continuously absorbed the Crimson Divine Mastiff's aura into the Crimson Avatar, refining and merging it. After devouring the Crimson Divine Mastiff's aura, Su Fong's Crimson Avatar trembled violently. Impurities kept seeping out like a placenta. The slash marks kept expanding and becoming deeper. The entire Crimson Avatar was improving at an astonishing speed. Su Fong's Dao heart and were also impacted. The Crimson Divine Mastiff's Crimson Divine Mastiff's Crimson Divine Mastiff contained an astonishing will to kill, causing Su Fong's Dao heart to tremble. His primordial spirit consciousness was also impacted by the boundless desire to kill. No matter how the will to kill attacked, Su Fong's jade-like Dao heart remained unmoved. His primordial spirit consciousness maintained a trace of clarity. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The blood slaughter token was also constantly trembling and resonating, causing Su Fong to constantly gain insights. His understanding of the Blood Valley's laws also became deeper and deeper. Merging with the Crimson Divine Mastiff caused Su Fong's Crimson Avatar to transform. Ancestral Gragon. Su Fong's thought came to the Dao Palace. It was time to see the old dragon. QL-11, the Ancestral Gragon, had been shackled by Yi Fei Bai. Now that Yi Fei Bai had died, the seal in his body also disappeared. He looked dispirited and listless, but there was nothing unusual about him. The moment he saw Su Fong, the Ancestral Gragon let out a furious roar. Su Fong, you're too heartless. Back in the Pongsong universe, this Ancestral Gragon didn't hesitate to consume my own blood essence to help you through many difficulties. After coming to the Eastern Profound Divine Realm, I've also helped you resolve many crises. But you, this Ancestral Gragon, was captured, and you only thought of saving this Ancestral Gragon now. You're an ingrate. Chapter 2837. How could Su Fong not know what Old Dragon was thinking? With a thought, 10 pills flew in front of Ancestral Gragon. They were not ordinary pills, but high-grade pills given by Xian Daozu, and they were all ancient pills. Boy, you finally have some conscience. But 10 pills are too little. Ancestral Gragon grabbed the pills and muttered in dissatisfaction. Swish, swish, swish. Another dozen balls of energy appeared. They were not ordinary energy, but pure life force formed by the heaven-piercing Blood King, Vine, absorbing the life force of those blood pigs. Ancestral Gragon's dissatisfied voice suddenly stopped. He said excitedly, "Not bad. You are really not bad." It was not in vain for this ancestor to take care of you for so many years. After settling Ancestral Gragon, Su Fong began to focus on recovering his life force and devouring the blood-refined Divine Mastiff. Less than 10 years later, Chi, the blood armor of the Blood Fiend Avatar, swelled and then shot out a Blood Fiend aura. Next to the 6th killing star, it quickly formed a new killing star pattern. 7-star Divine Blood Kill General. The Blood Fiend aura contained in the blood-refined Divine Mastiff was so shocking. Su Fong's Blood Fiend Avatar had not even devoured 1/10 of it before it quickly formed the 7th killing star. Su Fong was not too surprised or pleasantly surprised. His goal was now the Divine Lord of Blood Kill, so he did not feel much joy about the birth of a new killing star. Another 50 years passed. After being devoured by Su Fong's Blood Fiend Avatar, the blood-refined Divine Mastiff's body became slightly more illusory, allowing Su Fong to successfully form the 8th killing star. Not only were 2 killing stars born in succession, Su Fong's devouring of the blood-refined divine mastiff's aura caused the blood kill token to constantly vibrate and resonate, allowing Su Fong to obtain a large amount of clear information. After reading and comprehending, Su Fong's understanding of the Blood Valley's laws quickly deepened. Su Fong now understood that the Blood Valley's laws were actually the Tao of Slaughter, a supreme great Tao. The Tao of Slaughter could be combined with any other great Tao, causing the strength of a cultivator to multiply. Su Fong spent a much longer time on the birth of the 9th killing star. It was not until 300 years later that the killing star finally formed on the blood armor under Su Fong's expectations. 9-star God-killing general. In just a short period of time, Su Fong had become a 9-star bloody killing general. This was truly inconceivable. It was almost impossible for this kind of thing to happen to other cultivators. It wasn't just because of the blood-refined divine mastiff. Even if Dongxian Huihuang had really obtained the Crimson Divine Mastiff, he would not have dared to devour as freely as Su Fong with his ability. The slightest carelessness would have affected his consciousness and turned him into a monster that only knew how to kill. Additionally, the higher the level of the murderous aura, the harder it would be to control it. A single mistake could lead to the collapse of the avatar. Thus, cultivators would have to constantly grasp the Tao of Carnage. As for Su Fong, he had the Rainbow Jade Tao Heart and the Blood Slaughter Token, which allowed him to control the Blood Valley laws. Thus, he was able to control the bloodthirsty aura that he had devoured. Next, it's time to break through to the peak 9-star Divine General of Bloody Slaughter and become a Divine Lord of Bloody Slaughter. Su Fong's blood fury Dharma body began to attack the God Lord of Bloody Slaughter with all its might. He hoped to become a God Lord of Bloody Slaughter before leaving Blood Valley. The main reason he was so impatient was that after leaving Blood Valley, it would be even more difficult to become a Divine Lord of Bloody Slaughter in the outside world. While the blood fury Dharma body was devouring the Crimson Divine Mastiff, Su Fong was also cultivating other cultivation methods and abilities, constantly raising his cultivation base. He was striving to become a Tao Lord before the finals of Blood Valley. Only with the cultivation base of a Tao Lord and the powerful blood fury Dharma body could he possibly stand out in the finals. During the finals, the training grounds of the 9 divine regions would be connected. Su Fong would not only face Dongxuan's contestants, but also powerful opponents from other divine regions. Let's see what's in Yi Fei Bai's storage ring, Su Fong thought of the Yi clan. In the finals, he might encounter the Yi clan's experts from Middle Xian. He had to dispose of Yi Fei Bai's things in advance. Otherwise, once the matter of him killing Yi Fei Bai was exposed, he would be hunted down by the Yi clan. In the end, Yi Fei Bai's storage ring gave Su Fong an unexpected surprise. There were nearly 100,000 pills in the storage ring, all of them upper-class pills. Although their quality was not as good as the ancient pills given by Shixian Daozu, they were several times better than the upper-class pills commonly seen in Eastern Xian Divine region. 100,000 upper-class pills could be said to be a huge fortune, equivalent to the entire wealth of the elders of Eastern Xian Divine region. As expected of a disciple of Middle Xianzi clan, Yi Fei Bai was so rich. There were also many Xian Bao, but the highest quality was only a supreme-grade mystical sword. There was no supreme-grade Xian Bao that surpassed supreme-grade. What surprised Su Fong was that he found 2 talismans in Yi Fei Bai's storage ring. There were divine patterns in the shape of peach leaves condensed on them. Su Fong sensed carefully and figured out the use of these 2 talismans. They were mainly used to conceal one's aura and hide one's tracks. When Yi Fei Bai used the same talisman, Su Fong could not sense his existence, even with the Heaven's Secret Life shrinking technique. This showed how powerful these talismans were. These 2 talismans were the famous one-leaf vision concealment talismans in the entire Middle Xian. With these 2 powerful talismans, Su Fong would be able to escape easily even if he faced the likes of Supreme Venerable Spring Autumn and Great Elder Changsun of the 3 highest profound sects. What made Su Fong feel a little regretful was that he did not find anything in Yi Feibai's storage ring that could store cultivation techniques or divine abilities. Yi Feibai's substitution technique was able to evade the thunder of destiny and obliterate the power of destiny. From this, one could see how unique this technique was. Naturally, Su Fong wanted to master this technique. But after thinking about it, he understood. The Yi clan was one of the 5 great god clans of Middle Xian, and the substitution technique was a secret of a Yi clan. Why would they let Yi Feibai carry the divine ability with him? In Yi Feibai's storage ring, Su Fong suddenly obtained so many resources, especially those 2 talismans. This made Su Fong very happy. 100 years passed in the blink of an eye. Under the crazy devouring of Su Fong's blood fiend Dharma body, the divine blood-refined mastiff finally collapsed and turned into a cloud of pure high-grade blood fiend qi. And it was not an ordinary high-grade blood fiend qi, but the essence of the Blood Valley. This also meant that the divine blood-refined mastiff had died and completely disappeared from the world. Su Fong took out the Heaven's Chosen token and sucked out a ray of bloodlight from the blood fiend qi. Buzz! Buzz! The Heaven's Chosen token began to tremble crazily. Its entire body was covered in blood, red Xian Guang, as if it was burning. It could be seen how shocking the points obtained from the divine, blood-refined mastiff were. It lasted for half an hour before the Heaven's Chosen token calmed down. Su Fong's consciousness entered the Heaven's Chosen token and was shocked. 39 million points. Previously, Su Fong's points were close to 10 million. He actually obtained close to 30 million points from the divine, blood-refined mastiff. But thinking about it carefully, it was not strange at all. The divine blood-refined mastiff was originally the top blood monster in the Blood Valley. In addition, it had devoured countless cultivators since the elite competition, so its points were naturally shocking. This time, I guess everyone in Dallas City will be alarmed. Su Fong shook his head and smiled. After obtaining so many points, his ranking on the Heaven's Chosen Divine list would definitely rise rapidly. It was impossible not to cause a commotion, just as Su Fong expected. On the Heaven's Chosen Divine list in the sky above Dallas City, Su Fong's name was changing and rising at an unbelievable speed. From the 1,000th position, it was crazily rising. The big shots of the Eastern Xian Divine Realm were immediately alarmed. Before Su Fong's ranking stabilized, the Supreme Elder of Spring and Autumn snorted coldly. There are no contestants at the top of the Heaven's Chosen Divine list disappearing at this time, but Su Fong's ranking is rising at such a shocking speed. He must have obtained Yi Feibai's Heaven's Chosen token after killing him. Only now did he obtain Yi Feibai's points. Great Elder Zhongsun said in a low voice, "That's right, the truth can only be so." Before he could finish speaking, Su Fong's ranking had already broken through the 100th position and was still rising. 50th, 30th, top 10, Great Elder Zhongsun's voice stopped abruptly. QL11, Yi Feibai's ranking was much higher than Su Fong's before, but he was still outside the 100th position. No matter how high his points were, it was impossible for Su Fong's ranking to break into the top 10. Su Fong's ranking shot up to 5th place, above Ling Xingchen and below Dongxian Huiwang. The hall where the big shots were gathered was instantly silent. Exalted Elder Spring Autumn and Grand Elder Changsun felt like clowns, and their old faces were burning. They looked at Su Fong's name on the Heaven's Chosen Divine list as if they were looking at a blazing sun that had risen against the heavens, shining brilliantly, dazzling, and unstoppable. Carefree Divine Pavilion. Inside a private room on the 2nd floor. Seeing that the elite competition was about to end and Su Fong's ranking was still outside the 1,000th position, the cultivators of the Chun and Xian families heaved sighs of relief. The Pang family's forefather and other members of the Pang family were surprised that Su Fong did not make a name for himself, but they were not too disappointed. There were so many cultivators in the Eastern Xian Divine Realm. Su Fong's ranking in the 1,000th position in the elite competition was already quite impressive. The Chen family's forefather chuckled and said, "Su Fong stopped the invasion of the other races and became famous in Dongxian. I thought he was a peerless figure like the top geniuses of the Eastern Xian Divine Pavilion." Now, it seems like he's only slightly better than the geniuses of my family and the Xian family. The Pang family's forefather seemed very relaxed, as he said with a smile, "A cultivator from a low-level universe can achieve the 1000th position in Dongxuan's gathering of geniuses. How many people can do that?" The Xian family's forefather was about to mock him when Miss Pang Yu suddenly pointed at the picture of the Heaven's Chosen Divine list on the screen and screamed, "Su Fong! Look at Su Fong's ranking." Ignorant junior, making a fuss out of nothing. The Xian family's forefather sneered disdainfully as he looked at the picture of the Heaven's Chosen Divine list. Shock and horror flooded his eyes. Su Fong, 5th place. Chapter 28:38. In the private room. After a moment of silence, gasps could be heard. 5th on the Heavenly Chosen Divine list. What did that mean? The cultivators from a Fire Luo profound world couldn't imagine it. Being 5th on the Heavenly Chosen Divine list meant that Su Fong had reached the level of the top geniuses in the Eastern Profound Divine Domain. After all, the top 4 geniuses of the Heaven Pavilion had cultivated for tens of millions of years, or even longer. They also had the support of powerful cultivation resources and powerful forces to achieve what they had today. How many years had Su Fong cultivated? What kind of status did he have? Miss Pang clearly remembered that when she first met Su Fong, he was still a fake god who had just transcended from a low-level universe. At that time, Su Fong was an ant that any Jiuquan cultivator could despise and humiliate. In just a few tens of thousands of years, he had grown to such an astonishing level. How could the geniuses of the Heaven Pavilion compare to him? Being 5th on the Heavenly Chosen Divine list also meant that Su Fong would be valued by the upper echelons of the Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion and even the Daozu. His future was limitless. How could the cultivators from the Fire Luo Profound world not be shocked? I didn't expect this. I really didn't expect this. The eyes of the Pang clan's forefather were also filled with surprise and shock. He had expected that Su Fong's ranking would not be in the thousands, but he never expected that Su Fong would make it to the top 5. Looking at Su Fong's name on the Heavenly Chosen Divine list, the Pang clan's forefather felt dizzy. At the same time, he lost control of his Dao heart. His heart was filled with excitement. The Pang clan's chance to rise again had arrived. The other cultivators from a Fire Luo Profound world no longer held back and congratulated the Pang clan's forefather in front of the Chun and Xian clan's forefather. Miss Pang, Su Fong's Dao companion, became the target of many cultivators' flattery. The old ancestor of the Chun clan transmitted his primordial spirit to the old ancestor of the Pang clan. "Old Pang, actually, I have another purpose for coming to Wudao City this time. It is to bring the Pang clan back to the Fire Net mystic world. There were some misunderstandings in the past. They were all instigated by the Xian clan. Only the ancestral patriarch of the Xian clan and the cultivators of the Xian clan were left. Their faces were pale and their Taoist hearts were shaking. When Su Fong was in the Fire Luo mystic world, he had been hunted down by the Xian clan. Now that the Su Fong had soared to the sky, it meant that the Xian clan was going to be in big trouble. At that time, the other cultivation clans in the Fire Luo mystic world would not hesitate to help the Su Fong swallow the Xian clan. Su Fong was in the cave residence of the Chamber of Commerce. Xuanxin and Su Fong's subordinates who had stayed behind to protect her, as well as Luo, Gao Tianlei, and the others who had escaped from the Blood Valley, were also shocked and surprised when they saw the Chosen Divine list in the air. Luo said angrily, "This kid, he always makes a big noise whenever he has the chance. Will it kill you to keep a low profile?" Xuanxin smiled and looked at the name on the Chosen Divine list. An indescribable pride and arrogance rose in his heart. At the same time, Xuanxin also felt heavy pressure. "Su Fong, the gap between us is getting bigger and bigger. But I will never give up. Even if you reach the peak, I will try my best to keep up with you." In a chaotic, mystic world in the heaven-forsaken barren region, this was the base of the Ghost King sect. The leader of the Ghost King sect had just returned to his base with his bandits when a rune talisman in his body moved again. Su Fong, ranked 5th on the Chosen Divine list. Taking out the rune talisman, the leader of the Ghost King sect gasped. Immediately, His whole body trembled, and his eyes were filled with fear and despair. "Damn Black Heart Monster. I'm in big trouble because of you." The leader of the Ghost King sect gritted his teeth and waved his hand to summon a Xianguang. Blackheart Monster's figure rolled out of the Xianguang. Bang, bang, bang. The leader of the Ghost King sect punched and kicked Blackheart Monster. Although he did not use his magic power, he still beat Blackheart Monster to a pulp with his physical strength alone. Blackheart Monster was shocked and angry. "I'm a peerless powerhouse whose name shakes the heaven-forsaken barren region. How dare you humiliate me like this?" Bang, bang. What greeted him was another round of violent beating. The other bandits of the Ghost King sect could not help but look at each other. They could not figure out why their leader had become so violent. At this moment, he did not seem like a powerhouse, but a street thug in the mortal world. Blackheart Monster shouted loudly, "Just you wait. When the elite competition is over and young Master Dong Xianjun comes out of the Blood Valley, you will be annihilated." The leader of the Ghost King sect was stunned. "Dong Xianjun? So it was Dong Xianjun who asked you to instigate the Ghost King sect to attack the Square Sky City?" The other bandits of the Ghost King sect were stunned. Their eyes were filled with awe. Blackheart Monster said proudly, "That's right. Now you know fear. Let me go obediently and return to the Square Sky City. When we break through the Square Sky City, not only will young Master Dong Xianjun not punish you, he will also reward you handsomely." Boom, boom. The leader of the Ghost King sect punched and kicked again, causing Blackheart Monster to scream in pain. After beating Blackheart Monster for half an hour, he had become unrecognizable and his consciousness was blurred. The leader of the Ghost King sect stopped. He put Blackheart Monster back into the space in his body and then shouted to the bandits under his command, "Let's go back to the Square Sky City." "Boss, are we continuing to attack the Square Sky City?" T. Go to the Square Sky City and apologize to the Square Sky City. When the time comes, all of you better be polite. Even if the Square Sky City cultivators shit and piss on your heads, all of you better bear with it. The leader of the Ghost King sect's words stunned all the bandits. Time flew by. Unknowingly, there was less than 100 years to the end of the elite competition. The contestants waited quietly for the end of the elite competition. Boom! From the edge of the Blood Valley, a beam of blood light suddenly shot up into the sky, causing the entire Blood Valley to tremble. Even the blood-red stars hanging high in the sky suddenly dimmed. This lasted for about an hour. The blood light began to shrink rapidly, turning into a huge vortex in the sky. An astonishing Tao rhyme of slaughter and the will of the Blood Valley descended to the ground from the vortex. What happened? Could it be that the elite competition has ended early, or something happened in the Blood Valley? The Blood Valley is a world of its own and has the heavenly Tao precepts. This scene is like a heavenly omen. Something that can trigger a heavenly omen must be a rare treasure. It's obvious that a rare treasure has appeared. Even if we can't get such a fortune, we have to fight for it with all our might. Countless cultivators madly rushed to the edge of the Blood Valley. At the peak of the giant mountain in the middle of the Blood Valley, QL11 Dongxian Lai, Dongxian Xianyang, and Dongxian Xinhua looked at the blood-red vortex in the sky in surprise. Strange, it's a heavenly omen that only appears when the Blood Valley has given birth to a god lord of bloody slaughter. The elite competition is about to end. Who's ascending to the god lord of bloody slaughter at this time? Among the contestants, there are some 9-star god lords of bloody slaughter, but only junior brother Hui Huang is qualified to become the god lord of bloody slaughter. Looks like junior brother Hui Huang has caught that blood-refined divine mastiff and succeeded in becoming the god lord of bloody slaughter. He's about to ascend. This is a good thing. As the three discussed, one of them released a thought and flew away. A moment later, another thought appeared. It's not junior brother Hui Huang. He didn't catch that blood-refined divine mastiff at all. Then who is it? No matter who it is, one more god lord of bloody slaughter in the eastern profound divine region means one more peerless genius who can stand shoulder to shoulder with us. This is a good thing for the eastern profound divine region. Hee hee, I wonder how strong that newly ascended God Lord of bloody slaughter will be. I Dongxian Lai can't help but feel my hands itch. Being invincible is also a kind of loneliness. Bah! Dongxian Lai, you're starting to disgust people again. Since your skin is itching, why don't the two of us exchange pointers? The one who could cause such a big commotion was naturally Su Fong. After completely devouring the blood-refined divine mastiff, Su Fong's blood demon avatar had finally ascended after countless attempts. Su Fong had never heard that ascending to the God Lord of bloody slaughter would cause the Blood Valley to resonate and produce a heavenly omen-like phenomenon. Now, he was caught unprepared and couldn't hide it even if he wanted to. Focus on ascending to the God Lord of bloody slaughter first. Don't worry about anything else. The Blood Demon Avatar's Blood Demon Avatar was constantly expanding and shattering. The blood armor and the Star of Slaughter on it were also constantly crumbling. Everything was shattering and then constantly reforming. Not only the Blood Demon Avatar, but also the Tao Heart, willpower, and consciousness of the primordial spirit were being tested. The boundless killing intent was crazily attacking the Blood Demon Avatar's consciousness and willpower. Even the Tao Heart, origin, and soul of the physical body were being strongly impacted. At this moment, he was like a small boat in the middle of a vast ocean, being crazily attacked by the raging waves. As the huge waves rose and fell, he could be crushed by the waves at any time. The only thing he could do was to guard his Tao Heart and maintain a clear consciousness of his primordial spirit. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The one who triggered the heavenly omen is actually a cultivator. When they saw Su Fong, everyone was shocked and astonished. However, due to the willpower suppression and shackling force released by the blood-red vortex in the sky, these cultivators were forced to stop 1,000 miles away from Su Fong, unable to take another step closer. It's him, Su Fong. What is Su Fong doing? Could he be ascending? He must have obtained the rare treasure in the Blood Valley, which triggered the heavenly omen. This person's luck is so heaven-defying. First, he obtained the spider in the Blood Valley, and now he obtained a rare treasure that can trigger the heavenly omen. Why does the Blood Valley favor him so much? Someone recognized Su Fong and was immediately shocked, exclaiming, and then extremely jealous. Su Fong. Dong Xinzheng also appeared at this moment. When he saw Su Fong shrouded in blood-red light and thought of the million-year promise between him and Su Fong, a sense of helplessness surged in his heart. Even a blind man could see that Su Fong was ascending. To be able to trigger the heavenly omen in the Blood Valley, this ascension was no small matter. At this moment, Su Fong's strength was already something that Dong Xinzheng had to look up to. When he ascended again, his strength would definitely increase greatly. Then, how could he defeat him 1,000,000 years later? Sister may be right. This person is destined to be someone that I can't surpass. Competing with him will only be asking for humiliation. Chapter 28:39. Ling Xingqian appeared among the crowd of cultivators as well. Staring at Su Fong, Ling Xingqian's eyes flickered with endless hatred as a crimson glow surged within them. Su Fong, you've obtained another supreme fortune. Oh well, the higher you grow, the greater the benefits I'll get when I devour you. It'll be even more satisfying. Gu Tianqi's figure flashed out of the void. When he saw that it was Su Fong who had triggered the omen, his eyes were filled with shock and surprise. Soon after, a burning battle intent flashed in his eyes. Su Fong's luck is simply heaven-defying. He actually obtained another good fortune. After he advances, I really want to have a good fight with him again. Su Fong, you've actually merged with this reputed one's blood-refined mastiff. Dongxian Hui Huang tore through the air in a towering rage as he roared at Su Fong. He had been chasing after the blood-refined mastiff in the Blood Valley and was about to get it, but Ling Xingqian had ruined it. QL11, there was no other reason why Su Fong could advance to the god of bloody massacre now other than merging with the blood-refined mastiff. Right from the beginning, Dongxian Hui Wang had never taken Su Fong seriously. He only had Dongxian Lai, Dongxian Qianyang, and Dongxian Qingwen in his eyes. Su Fang's unexpected escape from Dongxian Huihuang's hands had at most surprised him, but he did not care. In his heart, Su Fang was still in it. Now that Dongxian Huihuang's supreme fortune had been obtained by Su Fang and was about to succeed, how could Dongxian Huihuang not be enraged? Boom! Dongxian Huihuang almost lost his rationality as he took a step forward and charged toward Su Fang. Who knew? Just as he stepped within 1,000 miles of Su Fang, a shocking murderous intent and came crashing towards Dongxian Huihuang like a tidal wave. No matter how strong Dongxian Huihuang was, how could he fight against the Blood Valley's power and will? Dongxian Huihuang felt like a tiny leaf that had been swept away by a strong gust of wind as he was flung back. His defensive robe was shattered along with his physical body, and cracks appeared on his Dao heart. He immediately spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood, and his aura instantly weakened. Su Fang, I Dongxian swear to kill you. Dongshuan's glorious hair was disheveled and his face was covered in blood. His usual image as a Heaven Pavilion disciple was nowhere to be seen. He looked battered, crazed, and ferocious. Looking at Dongshuan's current glory, Dongxian Jun suddenly felt a sense of empathy. Back then, in Blood Valley's second city, Star Killer City, he was like Dongshuan's glory, high and mighty, looking down on Su Fang. How similar was Dongshuan's current glory? Dongxian Jun suddenly thought of something, and his heart sank to the bottom of the valley. It's best that the Black-Heart Old Monster and the Ghost King sect can't break through Square Heaven City, or else the Su Fang will fight me to the death. What should I do then? It's just that Square Heaven City is empty now. With the Black-Heart Old Monster and the Ghost King sect's ability, they should have broken through the city long ago. Su Fang had become the center of attention. All the contestants were staring at him without blinking. Some were shocked, some were envious, and there were also those who were extremely jealous of him. Half a month later, the power of advancement within Su Fang's Crimson Blood avatar gradually stopped. The blood armor began to form again. Compared to before, the blood armor was more solid, as if it was refined from a blood-colored substance. It glowed with a cold, blood-red luster, and one's soul would shudder at a glance. TSK, TSK, TSK. Slash marks emerged from within the blood armor. They were no longer the silver gray of the divine general of Sanguine Massacre's blood armor, but dark gold slash marks. 1 slash, 2 slashes. Every time a slash was formed, much of Su Fang's Crimson Blood avatar's aura was taken away. After the 9th slash mark was formed, the avatar was obviously weakened. This was normal. Ordinary divine lords of Sanguine Massacre had 9 golden slash marks. Only geniuses with extremely strong and profound blood fiendish chi would be able to condense more slaughter marks with the help of treasures that contained rich blood fiendish chi. Dong Zuanli, it seems that you don't have any hope of fighting Su Fang. Your cultivation is much higher than his, and you have 12 slash marks. He is not qualified to fight you at all. Only 9 slash marks. How disappointing. It seems that Su Fang is also rushing to become the divine lord of Sanguine Massacre. He has merged with the blood-refined Mastiff, and the blood chi in his avatar is already extremely vast. If he is prepared in advance, he may be able to form more slash marks, and his Crimson Blood avatar will be even more powerful in the future. Back then, Junior Sister Qingwei used a large number of 9-pattern blood chi elixirs to form 18 slash marks. Now, the Crimson Blood avatar is the strongest among the 3 of us. How much wealth can a cultivator from a low-level universe have? To be able to become the divine lord of Sanguine Massacre by luck is already a supreme fortune. The 3 disciples of the East Profound Heaven Pavilion, who had been observing Su Fang with their sensing power, felt a sense of pity when they saw that Su Fang had only formed 9 slash marks. At this moment, Su Fang waved his hand, and 10 silver-patterned blood chi elixirs flew toward the Crimson Blood Chi elixir. All of them were 9-patterned blood chi elixirs. The Crimson Blood Chi elixir swallowed them, and his aura suddenly skyrocketed. Sizzle. 2 more slash marks were formed. Hey, what kind of blood chi elixir is that? It has silver patterns, and its medicinal power is so amazing. It seems that we have underestimated Su Fong. He is quite rich. I wonder how many slash marks he can form? No matter how heaven-defying he is, can he surpass junior Sister Qingwei? Su Fong's silver-patterned blood chi elixir shocked the 3 disciples of the Heaven Pavilion. Su Fong's silver-patterned blood chi elixir had caused a huge commotion in the Blood Valley's second city, Star Killer City. However, with their status, they naturally did not know about this. Su Fong constantly used blood chi elixirs to replenish the emptiness of the crimson blood chi elixir. Under the shocked gazes of the 3 disciples of the East Profound Heaven Pavilion and the gazes of many cultivators, more slash marks were formed. When the 18th golden slash mark was formed, Su Fong's silver-patterned blood chi elixir lost its effect and could not continue to form new slash marks. Just when everyone thought that it was about to end, an illusory figure suddenly flashed out of Su Fong's Tao Palace. It was his essence soul Dharma body. The essence soul Dharma body grabbed hundreds of rune talismans and threw them into the void, floating in the air. These rune talismans were all array talismans. After being activated by Su Fong's essence soul Dharma body, they immediately formed a large array. The array was very ordinary. It was a spirit gathering array that cultivators used to gather spirit chi. It could also be used to gather blood chi in the Blood Valley. However, Su Fong's spirit gathering array was the 9 Revolutions spirit gathering array. This also meant that this formation could compress the blood fiendish aura in the Blood Valley 9 times, causing the blood fiendish aura to become even purer and more majestic. The array activated suddenly and absorbed the blood chi in the air. After being compressed layer by layer, it was absorbed by Su Fong's blood chi elixir Dharma body. Chi. As the blood chi elixir Dharma body absorbed the 9 times compressed blood chi, slash marks formed on the blood armor one after another. There were a total of 24 slash marks. This lad is simply heaven-defying. To think that he could form 20 slash marks. He's even stronger than junior Sister Qingwei. His blood chi elixir fused with the blood-refined divine mastiff and his blood chi elixir. Coupled with that extraordinary spirit-gathering array, it's normal for him to be able to form 20 slash marks. This lad's luck, talent, and capabilities are all shocking. To be able to obtain the creation that should have belonged to junior brother Hui Wang, it can only be said that junior brother Hui Wang's luck is bad. The 3 disciples of the Eastern Mysterious Heaven Pavilion were surprised again. However, the 3 of them were not very envious or jealous. At their current level, the blood chi elixir Dharma body was just a part of their abilities. Moreover, Su Fong's cultivation was so low that no matter how extraordinary the blood chi elixir Dharma body was, it would not be taken seriously by them. With the help of the 9-turn spirit gathering array, Su Fong's blood chi elixir Dharma body had formed another 6 slash marks. At this time, it had reached its limit and could not form any more slash marks. At this time, all the killing chi in the slash marks surged towards the place where the slash marks intertwined. A dark golden killing star quickly formed. That killing star contained an astonishing killing chi and will. One could faintly see a shadow within it. It was a shadow of the blood-refined divine mastiff. It seemed to be able to appear at any time and kill in all directions. The birth of the killing star did not mean that one could use it to advance. The most difficult test followed one after another. At the highest point in the sky of the Blood Valley, a murderous aura suddenly shot out from the bloody vortex. It turned into phantoms with endless murderous intent and murderous will. Like a mighty army, they charged at Su Fong. Su Fong's advancement to God Lord of Bloody Massacre had resonated with the Blood Valley. He had to be recognized by the Blood Valleys before he could be considered a true God Lord of Bloody Massacre. Boom, boom, boom. Su Fong casually grabbed out streaks of killing sword chi. They formed a sword array and swept towards the killing shadows. In the sound of explosions, the killing shadows were constantly shattered and strangled. The killing shadows seemed to be endless. However, Su Fang's killing sword array's attack was also endless. When the cultivators in the distance saw this scene, it was as if Su Fang was facing an army of killing gods. He was fighting against an army with his own strength, but his blood-chi elixir dharma body stood still. After about half an hour, the killing shadows were killed by Su Fang's sword array and did not appear again. Whoosh! A tall and majestic shadow shot out from the bloody vortex in the sky. The shadow quickly turned from illusory to solid, and it turned into a dark golden blood armor with traces of blood red. It was majestic and filled with killing intent. It was a killing god formed by the will and power of the Blood Valley. The killing god's eyes shot out bloody light. Holding a bloody spear, it carried a monstrous killing aura. With an unstoppable momentum, it charged towards Su Fang. Being promoted to God Lord of Bloody Massacre and being recognized by the Blood Valleys was actually not much different from passing a tribulation. This killing god is actually formed by the Dharma of the Slaughter Tao. It's very similar to the heavenly tribulation. As long as I can destroy it, it means that I have gained the recognition of the Blood Valley's will. Then, I will become a true God Lord of Bloody Massacre. Su Fang looked at the killing god with a strong fighting spirit in his eyes. The blood-chi elixir dharma body leaped out and went straight for the killing god. Break for me. Chapter 2840. Boom, boom, boom. Su Fang unleashed all of his Crimson Fury avatar's attacks. The clash lasted for more than a dozen breaths before the Grim Reaper finally shattered. Whoosh! A beam of crimson light flashed from the crimson vortex in the sky. Mysterious and profound crimson runes surged within it, and at the same time, it contained a supreme will of massacre. It suddenly descended and enveloped Su Fang, seeping into the crimson armor. In that instant, Su Fang felt like he had a complete understanding of the great Tao of massacre within Blood Valley. The Crimson Fury avatar's will to massacre had also become stronger and more tenacious. At the same time, he had a strong feeling that he could easily control and dominate the power within Blood Valley. The slash marks on the crimson armor became even more profound after absorbing the profound crimson runes. The crimson vortex began to gradually dissipate. Everything was about to return to normal. This also meant that Su Fang had finally completed his advancement and become a bona fide Divine Lord of Massacre. Divine Lord of Massacre. I've finally become a Divine Lord of Massacre. Su Fang retracted his Crimson Fury avatar and merged it with his physical body, his heart brimming with immense joy. There were simply too many benefits to becoming a Divine Lord of Massacre. Now that he had finally become one, how could Su Fang not be happy? Next, Su Fang took out the 9-patterned Crimson Fury pill to swiftly recover the Crimson Fury avatar's energy. A mere Tao Lord has actually become a Divine Lord of Massacre. Su Fang's luck is simply heaven-defying. How many Divine Lords of Massacre are there in the entire Eastern Xian Divine Domain? It might not be a good thing for him to obtain heaven-defying fortune without the corresponding strength and status. Didn't you see Dongshuan's brilliant appearance? There will definitely be a fierce battle next. Let's just wait and see. Many cultivators in the distance saw that Su Fang had successfully ascended to become a Divine Lord of Massacre. Some were envious, some were jealous, and many others were waiting to see Su Fang's performance. Black and white Xian Guang flickered in Dongxian Huihuang's eyes as he exuded an icy killing intent and an aura of destruction. Looking at Su Fang from afar, he was like a ferocious beast about to devour someone. Dongxian Jun took the opportunity to fan the flames. Senior brother Huihuang, the one who has become a Divine Lord of Massacre, should be the focus of everyone's attention. I want him to die. Dongxian Huihuang's murderous aura of anger. His murderous aura thickened. Dongxian Jun's deep eyes were filled with pride. Su Fang, so what if you become the God Lord of Bloody Slaughter? Do you think you can contend against Dongxian Huihuang? If Dongxian Huihuang kills you, he'll be eliminating a huge problem for me. About half an hour later, the bloody vortex in the air finally disappeared completely. The shocking shackles and blood valleys that shrouded thousands of miles vanished as well. Su Fong, you've taken away my fortune. I'll take your head. Dongxian Huiwang roared, his murderous aura soaring. A thought flashed out from between his brows, appearing above Su Fong in an instant. The thought exploded, turning into a black and white xinguang. As it spun, it turned into a vortex. Yin Yang Ultimate One. Dongxian Huiwang unleashed Tinga's ultimate skill, Yin Yang Ultimate One, to suppress Su Fong in his fury. Dongxian Huiwang, do you think I'm still that weakling you can bully as you please? Su Fong smiled domineeringly as the murderous intent erupted from his body, condensing into the shadow of a killing god that soared into the sky. Boom! Before the yin-yang vortex could unleash its power, Dongxian Huihuang's will contained within was shattered by the murderous intent. The yin-yang vortex collapsed as well. Not long ago, Su Fong had been trapped by Dongxian Huihuang's divine power and had been forced to unleash his trump card, the Art of Destiny. He had only managed to escape after paying a hefty price. Now, Su Fong had broken Dongxian Huihuang's ultimate skill with only the murderous intent. The Divine Lord of Massacre's ability was truly terrifying. The cultivators who had planned to watch the show were shocked and surprised when they saw the scene, their mouths agape. They had never expected that Su Fong, who had just ascended to become the Divine Lord of Massacre, would have such astounding ability that he could easily break Dongxian Huihuang's thought attack. The smugness in Dongxian Huihuang's eyes and the delight on his face froze. The next moment, Dongxian Huihuang's fury rose again, almost drowning his rationality. In his opinion, the ability that Su Fong possessed now should have belonged to him. How could he not be enraged? The Crimson Divine Mastiff was my only chance to surpass Dongxian Lai, Dongxian Xianyang, and Dongxian Qinghua. Now it has helped that ant. In his fury, Dongxian Huihuang's murderous intent towards Su Fong intensified. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Dongxian Huiwang released 500 strands of thought in one breath, turning into a long river of intertwining black and white that surged like a galaxy, enveloping Su Fong in a flash. The river of black and white spiraled, turning into a huge vortex once again. It was more than 100 times larger than the previous vortex, and its power was much stronger as well. In his fury, Dongxian Huiwang executed his strongest attack. The art of yin-yang is extraordinary indeed. It's probably a level higher than Gu Tianqi's Grand Taboo art. However, this is the Blood Valley, and I am the Divine Lord of Bloody Massacre. I also have the token of Bloody Massacre. In this Blood Valley dimension, your Dongxian Huiwang can no longer suppress my Su Fong. Su Fong activated his Crimson Blood avatar. The 24 slash marks on the blood armor flickered along with the golden image of the killing star. TSK, TSK, TSK. Strands of killing intent shot out from the blood armor, intertwining and condensing rapidly. At the same time, a silhouette flashed out of the killing star. It was not a human figure, but a monster that looked like a tiger. The Crimson Divine Mastiff. To ascend to the Divine Lord of Bloody Massacre in the Blood Valley, one had to fuse with a supreme spiritual item that contained the Blood Valley's origin to break through. It was the same principle as condensing an avatar and needing a divine source. When one fused with the Blood Valley's spiritual item during the ascension, one would also obtain the item's ability. Heaven Pavilion's peerless genius, Dongxian Xianyang, had fused with a very peculiar blood river when he ascended to the Divine Lord of Bloody Massacre. It had the ability to devour life. Therefore, when he executed his Crimson Blood avatar, he would manifest the form of the Blood River. Su Fong had successfully ascended to the Divine Lord of Bloody Massacre after fusing with the Divine Blood Refined Mastiff. Now that he had activated his Crimson Blood avatar's ability, he released the Divine Blood Refined Mastiff. Once the Divine Blood Refined Mastiff's silhouette appeared, it immediately fused with the killing intent released by the slash marks and swiftly turned into a lifelike blood monster. Oh, the Divine Blood Refined Mastiff let out a long howl that sounded like a dog's bark. A shocking killing intent swept out in all directions. Many cultivators thousands of miles away felt their Tao hearts tremble violently. Their nascent divinity and consciousness were almost lost. The remaining cultivators in the elite competition were all true experts. Many of them were pinnacle upper Tao Lord realm powerhouses. At this moment, the divine blood-refined mastiffs howled past through the black and white vortex, still affecting many cultivators. Their Tao hearts were shaken, and their wills were almost crumbling. Some of the weaker contestants fell to the ground like dumplings under the impact of the howl. The black and white vortex that enveloped Su Fong and contained Dongshuan's glorious will was shattered layer by layer under the impact of the divine blood-refined mastiff's howl. The black and white vortex of the Xian Guang shook violently as well. However, Dongshuan's glorious will's supreme ability was truly astonishing. The divine blood-refined mastiff's howl could hardly shatter it. Oh, the divine blood-refined mastiff's body that was over 100 feet long suddenly shrunk before it pounced forward. It actually opened its mouth and bit at the black and white vortex around it. It seemed like an extremely primitive and violent attack, but it tore the black and white vortex into pieces. A large gap was soon bitten open. Su Fong made his move at this moment as well. With a flip of his right hand, the Blood Massacre Medallion appeared in his hand and released the Supreme Blood Valley's will. Under the pressure of the Supreme Blood Valley's will, Dongshuan's glorious will within the black and white vortex was completely shattered. The black and white vortex collapsed as well. Spurt. Dongshuan's glorious will's 500 thoughts were destroyed. His avatar, Tao Heart, and were severely injured as well. He spat out a mouthful of blood and staggered, almost unable to fly. His aura weakened instantly as well. Su Fong, you've just ascended to the Divine Lord of Bloody Massacre. Your current realm is unstable, and your crimson avatar is empty. It's also difficult for you to unleash the full power of the Divine Lord of Bloody Massacre. This reputed one will use the pinnacle of the 9-star Divine Lord of Bloody Massacre to compete with you. Su Fong possessed the Blood Massacre Medallion and the Divine Lord of Bloody Massacre's shocking will of massacre. In addition to the divine blood-refined mastiff's ability, Dongshuan's glorious will was suppressed and his avatar's ability was restricted as well. Of course, he was at a disadvantage. Dongshin Glorious will could see this as well. Ignoring the damage to his Tao Heart and avatar, he immediately switched his avatar and charged at Su Fong in his Crimson Avatar state. Su Fong saw through Dongshin Glorious Will's intention and sneered disdainfully. I want you to know that you, the Divine Blood-Refined General, are an ant in front of the Divine Lord of Bloody Massacre. It's the same, even if you're a 9-star pinnacle. Su Fong's intent shifted and the divine blood-refined mastiff charged at Dongshin Glorious Will. At the same time, Su Fong's crimson avatar released 100 thoughts that were faster than the divine blood-refined mastiff. The thoughts reached above Dongshin Glorious Will and turned into crimson chains that descended on Dongshin Glorious Will with a clatter. Dongshin Glorious Will released a murderous aura as a majestic and murderous silhouette of the god of massacre appeared. It held a crimson saber and slashed at the chains, creating a crimson curtain of light. Crack, crack, crack. QL11, the crimson saber light slashed at the chains. The chains did not budge, but the saber light was shattered. Dongshin Glorious Will's gaze changed instantly. Those chains aren't condensed from crimson air and thoughts. They're transmogrified from the Blood Valley's law. How could he have mastered the Blood Valley's law to such an astounding level? Swoosh! The chains shattered the god of massacre's silhouette and swiftly intertwined to form a cage, trapping Dongshin Glorious Will within. Chapter 2841. Dongshin Huang's crimson avatar was extraordinary as well, bursting with a murderous aura to blast away the heavy shackles that came crashing down. The mastiff roared furiously, attacking Dongshin Huang's Tao Heart. At the same time, it attacked Dongshin Huang with its razor-sharp claws and teeth, showing no fear. Dongshin Huang's Tao Heart was already wavering. Under the mastiff's attack, cracks began to appear in his Tao Heart. The crimson armor defense was quickly torn apart by the mastiff's bite. The cage formed by Su Fang's Blood Valley's law was shrinking as well. At the same time, it triggered the Blood Valley's will and power to crush Dong Xinhuang. No matter how strong his ability was, it was difficult for him to fight the Blood Valley's power due to the damage to his Dao heart. Dong Xinhuang's space of activity was suppressed and shrunk continuously, finally restrained by the chains as it seeped into his body rapidly. This was the advantage of Su Fang's mastery of the Tao of Massacre. He did not need to activate his Crimson Avatar's power. He could command the Blood Valley's power with just a thought, causing the Avatar's ability to undergo a qualitative change. Even when he left the Blood Valley, Su Fang could still use the Tao of Massacre to launch a powerful Tao heart and will attack. "You ant! How dare you shackle this reputed one?" Dong Xinhuang was shocked and enraged. At the same time, he was filled with humiliation and indignation. "You can see me as an ant and attempt to kill me. Why can't I shackle you? Not only do I want to shackle you, I want to kill you." Su Fang's eyes flashed with a ruthless and domineering luster. He grabbed hundreds of killing sword energy and turned them into a sword formation to attack, about to kill Dong Xinhuang. Suddenly, QL-11A thought leaped into the air, turning into a crimson thunder that exploded. The dazzling and violent crimson lightning surged, illuminating the entire Blood Valley's time and space. The rampaging lightning shattered Su Fang's sword formation. Then, a silhouette formed from the thought quickly condensed into a young man. The young man was muscular, with thick brows and big eyes. His short hair, only about an inch long, looked like steel needles. There was a crimson lightning mark between his brows, exuding a ferocious and domineering aura. The young man nodded at Su Fang. "This reputed one is Dong Xianlai." "Dong Xuanli." Su Fang was shocked and stopped his attack on Dong Xianglory. Although he had never seen Dong Xianlai before, it was impossible for him not to have heard of this name. The cultivators watching the battle from afar were also in an uproar. Their eyes were filled with endless reverence as they looked at the figure. Dong Xianlai was Heaven's chosen genius of Heaven Pavilion in this Jiuquan. He was ranked 5th among all the Heaven Pavilion disciples, his ability far surpassing Dong Xianhuiwang. In addition, this person had a violent temperament and was extremely belligerent. He was infamous in the entire Dongxian. Who would have thought that he would suddenly intervene and save Dong Xianhuiwang? Su Fang's heart turned cold. With a thought, he summoned the divine, blood-refined Mastiff back. The divine, blood-refined Mastiff turned into a beam of blood-red light and returned to the star of slaughter pattern on the blood armor. Dong Xianlai's eyes flickered with crimson lightning as he nodded at Su Fang and said, "Do me a favor and let Dong Xianglory go this time. Take it that I owe you a favor. How about it?" Dong Xianlai's words immediately caused an uproar. What kind of identity and ability did he have? It was rumored that this person had a fiery temper and would attack at the slightest disagreement. Now that he was pleading for Dong Xianhuiwang, he was actually so courteous to Su Fang. Dong Xianhuiwang felt like he had been greatly humiliated. He shouted loudly, "Senior brother Dong Xianlai, I, Dong Xianhuiwang, would rather die than have you plead for me." The shadow formed by Dong Xianlai's thoughts stared at the shackled Dong Xianhuiwang and grinned. "Dong Xianhuiwang, do you think I'm here to save you?" Dong Xianhuiwang was stunned. "Dong Xianlai, what do you mean?" Su Fang was also puzzled, not understanding what Dong Xianlai meant. Lightning flashed in the eyes of Dong Xianlai's shadow. His gaze swept past Su Fang and the other contestants before looking at Dong Xianhuiwang. "What is the purpose of Jiuquan's chosen genius this time?" Dong Xianhuiwang answered, "The foreign tribes have broken into the world of the demon race and are threatening the Jiuquan God Realm. The purpose of Jiuquan God Realm's chosen genius this time is to select peerless geniuses to deal with the foreign tribe's future calamity." "I understand now. Senior brother Lai, you're here to save me because you don't want Dongxian God Realm and the human race to lose a genius." Dong Xianlai snorted. "Dong Xianhuiwang, oh, Dong Xianhuiwang, you're really arrogant. You're still considered a top genius in Dongxian. You're not far from being ordinary in the eyes of the entire human race, but you're not far from it. Your life and death is your own fortune. What does it have to do with me? I'm here not to save you, but to save Su Fong. Save Su Fong. Su Fong and Dongxian Hui Wang were confused. Su Fong has made a great contribution in saving Dongxian, and he also possesses the Fortune Spider. Now, with his cultivation base as a Tao Lord, he has received the honorific title of the Lord of Sanguinity. Such fortune, talent, and strength are far superior to Dongxuan's glory. Dongxian Huihuang's face paled at Dongxian Lai's words, his eyes filled with defiance. Dongxian Lai saw through Dongxian Huihuang's thoughts and shouted, "I'm not the only one who thinks so. Senior brother Qianyang and junior sister Qingyue also think so." Dongxian Huihuang's body trembled. Dongxian Lai continued, "I'm here because Su Fong will be in great trouble if he kills you. He won't even be able to participate in the finals of Blood Valley. I don't want such a genius of the human race to be buried. That's why I'm here to plead for you. I'm not here to save you." The many contestants in the distance were shocked and surprised. No one would have thought that Dongxian Pavilion's top 3 disciples would have such a high opinion of Su Fong. Plop! Dongxian Huihuang's Tao heart felt like it had been struck by a heavy hammer. An inaudible crack sounded in his Tao heart as the cracks quickly spread throughout it. Dongxian Huihuang, your talent isn't bad, but your Tao heart is a little lacking. If you can use this opportunity to rebuild your Tao heart, it might be a chance for you to surpass me in the future. That's all I have to say. It's up to you whether you want to listen or not. Dongxian Lai waved his hand and swept out a divine aura that enveloped Dongxian Huihuang before he left. Then Dongxian Lai looked at Su Fong and grinned. "You're not bad, kid. Actually, I'm here because I'm selfish. I hope you can grow as quickly as possible. Then, I'll have an opponent. Although you've been promoted to the Lord of Sanguinity, you're still not qualified to be my opponent. Sai, being invincible is also a kind of loneliness." Dongxian Lai sighed. After that, his figure transformed into a blood-red bolt of lightning and disappeared into nothingness. Su Fong was dumbfounded. He didn't expect the 3 great disciples of Dongxian Pavilion to have been watching him all this while. He didn't expect the legendary genius Dongxian Lai to be such a weirdo. His impression of Dongxian Pavilion's disciples had changed. Like Gu Tianqi, Dongxian Lai's vision was not limited to Dongxian Divine Domain, but the entire Jiushuan human race. When one's vision was higher, one's heart would naturally be broader. Naturally, one's achievements on the path of cultivation would be even more shocking. Dongxian Huihuang and Dongxian Jun's talents were extraordinary. Dongxian Huihuang's ability was even much higher than Gu Tianqi's, but Gu Tianqi's achievements would definitely surpass his in the future. It's all thanks to Dongxian Lai. Otherwise, if I really killed Dongxian Huihuang in front of everyone, it would really attract endless trouble. At least, I wouldn't be able to establish myself in Dongxian Divine Domain. Dongxian Huihuang's setback this time can be considered retribution. If he continues to pester me in the future, when I become a Tao Lord, I won't be afraid even if I lose the help of the Blood Valley's environment. It won't be long before I step on his head and surpass him in one fell swoop. A sense of dominance and pride grew in Su Fong's heart. Although he had defeated Dongxian Huihuang with the help of the Crimson Blood Avatar and the Blood Valley's environment, he had defeated Dongxian Huihuang with his own strength after all. This gave Su Fong a strong sense of confidence. The many contestants who had come to watch the show left with their hearts filled with shock. Gu Tianqi sent a message to Su Fong with his soul. "Su Fong, when we leave the Blood Valley, fight with me." Su Fong replied, "All right, I want to settle the matter of you restraining me with the great taboo art back then." "Kid, you're still so vengeful." Gu Tianqi guffawed. Su Fong sat cross-legged on the ground and swallowed the 9-pattern crimson blood pill to recover his crimson blood avatar, waiting for the end of the competition. Now that he had ascended to become the Divine Lord of Sanguinity, and even Dongxian Huihuang had returned in defeat, no one in the Blood Valley could threaten him except for the other 3 disciples of the Heavenly East Pavilion. Even if there were any powerful blood monsters, they would only be giving him points. Naturally, he had nothing to worry about. 100 years passed in the blink of an eye. A divine power that distorted space surged out from the surroundings, enveloping Su Fong within. Then, with a flash of crimson light, Su Fong's figure disappeared without a trace from the Blood Valley. Dallas City. A crimson light that exuded an endless, murderous aura suddenly descended, enveloping the entire Dallas City in an instant. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Beams of crimson light flashed as figures were swept out of the Blood Valley. After about half an hour, everything returned to normal. The Jiushuan Blood Valley's chosen elite competition had ended. The contestants who had persevered until the end before being sent out stood in the air, looking up at the chosen god list in the air. Countless cultivators in Dallas City, including the giants of the Eastern Profound Divine Domain, were all paying attention to the chosen god list. It was not just Dallas City. The mystic worlds, forces, and even the heavenly pavilions of the Eastern Profound Divine Domain were also paying attention to the final ranking of the chosen god list. Under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, the huge chosen god list began to shrink slowly, the names disappearing from it one by one. The chosen god list shrunk until it was only 1,000 feet long, leaving only 10,000 names on it. After a moment of silence, waves of cheers erupted from Dallas City, but there were also sighs of disappointment, and there were even people who cried out in pain. Chapter 2842. Fifth place. When Su Fong saw his ranking, he couldn't help but be shocked. He had expected to gain an astonishing amount of points after devouring the Mastiff, but he had not expected it to be so exaggerated. Fifth place, Su Fong, is actually fifth. A contestant who had just come out of the Blood Valley saw Su Fong's ranking on the God's Chosen list and exclaimed in shock, immediately attracting the attention of many other contestants. Su Fong is simply heaven-defying. He's only an Upper Dao Lord, but he's actually ranked fifth. Even Gu Tianqi is not as good as Su Fong. He's only second to Dongxian Hui Wang. What's Dongxian Hui Huang's cultivation base? What's Su Fong's cultivation base? In addition, if Dongxian Lai hadn't stopped him in the Blood Valley, Dongxian Hui Wang would have been killed by Su Fong. Su Fong should be ranked fourth now, not fifth. So what if he's a Heaven Pavilion disciple? There's Su Fong among us lowly cultivators. Many of the contestants were shocked, exclaiming in surprise before a flurry of discussion ensued. The voices drifted into Dongxian Hui Huang's ears. He was expressionless, neither happy nor sad. He only looked a little pale. He was indeed a peerless genius of Heaven Pavilion. Dongxian Hui Wang had managed to adjust his mentality in such a short time after his setback in the Blood Valley. Ordinary cultivators could not compare to him. Dongxian Jun's deep eyes flashed with a hint of viciousness as he said indignantly, "I was only lucky enough to get such a high ranking with the help of the Mastiff." Dongxian Hui Huang glanced at Dongxian Jun indifferently and snorted coldly. "Dongxian Jun, if you want to regain your face from Su Fong, you can use your own strength. Using these tricks to provoke me will only put you at a disadvantage. I definitely want to regain my dignity from Su Fong, but I won't be provoked by you." After a pause, Dongxian Hui Wang continued slowly. "After I failed, I spent 100 years in Blood Valley calmly pondering. I've already thought things through very thoroughly. Senior brother Dongxian Lai's lecture is very correct. This failure was caused by Su Fong. Although the main reason was because I was careless, my Dao heart was not firm enough, and my vision was not broad enough. I now understand why we were asked to change our surname to Dongxian after we entered Heaven Pavilion. It was because Master Daozu taught us for the entire Dongxian for the human race, and not for any of our disciples to gain power, fame, and wealth. Dongxian Jun, I hope you can understand this too." With that, Dongxian flew away in a splendid manner. QL11 Dongxian Jun's expression was gloomy, his heart filled with worry. Now, Su Fong could be said to have soared into the sky. Even Dongxian Lai and the other two disciples thought so highly of his potential. The upper echelons of Heaven Pavilion would definitely place great importance on Su Fong. It was impossible for Dongxian Jun to use Heaven Pavilion's power to get rid of Su Fong. With Su Fang's tyranny, once he knew that Dong Xianjun had secretly ordered Old Devil Heinous to attack Fang Tian City, how could he let him go? By then, even Dongxian Heaven Pavilion's upper echelons could hardly protect him. How could he not be worried? Su Fang. Just as Su Fang was about to return to the Chamber of Commerce's abode, Dong Xianzheng flew towards him. Su Fang said coldly, Dong Xianzheng, you're not here to remind me of the duel 1,000,000 years later, are you? You've misunderstood. I don't mean to provoke you. Besides, I understand now that you and I are not on the same level. I'm here to tell you that I won't be your enemy in the future. He did not expect someone as prideful as Dong Xianzheng to admit defeat. However, Dong Xianzheng had no choice but to lower his head now. Even Dongshuan's glory had been defeated by Su Fang. With his ability, even if his talent was heaven-defying, there was no chance for him to surpass Su Fang. Dong Xianzheng then stared at Su Fang and spoke with pride. However, I, Dong Xianzheng, have my own dignity and pride. Even if I know that I'm no match for you, I'll still fight you 1,000,000 years later. Don't worry about your grandfather's soul. My sister has already made the appropriate arrangements. Not only did she not hurt him, she even gave him an unparalleled transformation. I didn't expect Dong Xianzheng to be able to let go. This person's achievements in the future will definitely surpass Dong Xianjun's and even surpass Dongshuan's glory. After a moment of surprise, Su Fang's heart was completely at ease. Since Dong Xianrong and Dong Xianzheng had said so, his grandfather's soul must be safe and sound. Su Fang invincible! From Dallas City, a loud cry suddenly rang out. Su Fang invincible! At first, it was only one person, but it immediately triggered a tsunami of cheers that shook the entire city. Not only the cultivators of heaven-forsaken barren region, even the most ordinary mortals were cheering in excitement. They were trembling all over, and some were even tearing up in excitement. These people of heaven-forsaken barren region were so excited not only because of Su Fang's heaven-defying rise from heaven-forsaken barren region, but also because they had the same identity as Su Fang, the heaven-forsaken slave tribe. Heaven-forsaken barren region's cultivators were exceptionally ferocious, and there were as many bandits as there were hairs on a cow. However, they felt inferior to their identity as the heaven-forsaken slave tribe. Bandits also had dignity and hot-bloodedness. Su Fang's heaven-defying rise now. How could they not be hot-blooded? How could they not be elated? From now on, who would dare to laugh at the heaven-forsaken slave tribe for having no geniuses? Not only did the heaven-forsaken slave tribe have unparalleled geniuses, but they also surpassed super forces like the 3 highest mysterious sects and the Luo Shao sword sect, and even most of the Heaven Pavilion's disciples. This alone was enough for heaven-forsaken barren regions cultivators to hold their heads high no matter which mystical world they went to in the future. Su Fang cupped his fists at the densely packed silhouettes in Dallas City. Then with a flash, he came to the abode rented by the Chamber of Commerce. Congratulations to young Master Su Fang for being ranked at the top of the heavenly chosen list. Dallas' sex leader, who had been waiting in front of the abode, cupped his fists and smiled at Su Fang, his tone laced with flattery. He was an unparalleled expert who had surpassed the Dallas sex leader, a prominent figure in the entire heaven-forsaken barren region. Facing a Dao Lord cultivator now was like facing one of Dongshuan's giants. Other than Dallas sex leader, there was also a white-haired elder from the Chamber of Commerce. His aura was even more powerful than Dallas sex leader, and he was the Chamber of Commerce's backer. The white-haired elder cupped his fists at Su Fang and chuckled. Young Master Su Fang is staying in the Chamber of Commerce, but this reputed one has been cultivating in seclusion. Please forgive me for not being able to meet young Master. 2 giants of the heaven-forsaken barren region were so polite to Su Fang. Xuanqin, Luo Gaotianlei, Hua Tiannu, and Qin Heng, who had just come out of the Blood Valley, were waiting for Su Fang in front of the abode. They looked at Su Fang, their eyes flashing with pride and pride. One more thing, congratulations to young Master Su Fang. The white-haired elder from the Chamber of Commerce said with a chuckle, This reputed one had the Chamber of Commerce check the information just now. Young Master Su Fong is now ranked on the Tianxian ranking and is ranked 926th. Our heaven-forsaken barren region has never produced a genius who has entered the Tianxian ranking in history. Young Master Su Fong is the first. Taoist sect's leader was shocked and said in shock, Tianxian ranking? Even among the Heaven Pavilion disciples, there are not many who can enter the Tianxian ranking in the Tao Lord realm, let alone in the top 1,000. Young Master Su Fong is indeed extraordinary, very extraordinary. Su Fong smiled faintly, but he was also very happy in his heart. As soon as he came out of the Blood Valley space-time, he felt a protective force lingering around him, as if there was a pair of eyes watching him at all times. He had already realized that his ranking on the Tianxian ranking had risen by a big step, and he was protected by Jiuxuan's heavenly laws, which strengthened him. The Tianxian ranking was divided into the Heaven, Earth, Xian, and Huang rankings. Being able to enter the Xian ranking was enough to prove that Su Fong's talent and potential could be ranked in the top 10,000 in the entire Jiuxuan's God realm. This was mainly because he was promoted to God Lord of Bloody Slaughter and was recognized by Jiuxuan's heavenly laws. Therefore, the change in the ranking on the Tianxian ranking had nothing to do with the ranking in the Jiuxuan's chosen elite competition. I am only in the top 1,000 of the Xian ranking after being promoted to God Lord of Bloody Slaughter. This shows how many geniuses there are in the Jiuxuan's God realm. I still need to work harder. Although Su Fong was happy in his heart, he was not very proud. Taoist sect master's expression suddenly became serious, and he said to Su Fong, Young Master Su Fong, there's an unfortunate matter that needs to be told to you. Then he changed to vital spirit voice transmission and slowly told Su Fong about Blackheart Old Monster and Ghost King's sect attacking Square Heaven City. Of course, Taoist sect master also mentioned that Blackheart Old Monster and Ghost King's sect gave up attacking Square Heaven City because of Taoist sect's timely reinforcements. Blackheart Old Monster? Ghost King's sect? How dare they do that? A fierce aura gushed out of Su Fong's body, causing the Tao hearts of Taoist sect master and the experts of the Chamber of Commerce to suddenly tremble. This was the power of God, Lord of Bloody Slaughter. Just as killing aura alone could deter experts who surpassed Taoist sect master. Gentlemen, I need to make a trip to Square Heaven City. I want to accompany you. Su Fong immediately took out the Peach Soul sky-traversing vessel and brought Xuanxin, Luo, and the others into the treasured vessel's internal space, then sped out of Taoist City. The final ranking of Jiuxuan's chosen elite tournament quickly spread throughout the entire Eastern Xian Divine Realm, causing a huge commotion. Dongxian Lai, Dongxian Qianyang, Dongxian Qingwei, and Dongxian Huiwang were in the top 4 of the chosen god list. No one was surprised, as they once again felt the unfathomable depth of Heaven Pavilion and the unparalleled talent of its disciples. The one who caused the commotion was Su Fong, who was ranked 5th. It was not the first time the various mystic worlds and forces had heard of Su Fong's name. Previously, Su Fong had stopped the invasion of the foreign tribes, which had already shaken the entire Eastern Xian Divine Realm. However, at that time, most forces, including some peerless giants, had thought that Su Fong had only been lucky to successfully destroy the realm-crossing Mystic Gate and thwart the foreign tribes' conspiracy. However, it was different this time. The Jiuxuan's chosen elite tournament this time was a grand gathering of countless geniuses. It was a test of true ability, not something that could be distinguished by luck alone. 5th on the chosen god list. Furthermore, he had defeated Dongxian Huiwang in the Blood Valley. His true ranking should be 4th. A cultivator from a low-level universe could actually stand shoulder to shoulder with Heaven Pavilion's top geniuses. Such talent was not only stunning, it was simply heaven-defying. Chapter 2843. Fontian City. Whoosh, a treasure ship that was thousands of feet long, emerged from the void. It was the Peach Soul sky-crossing ship. This king-grade Xianbao that he had taken from Yi Fei Bai was truly extraordinary. After Su Fong left the boundary of the Taoist mystic world, He activated the Peach Soul sky-crossing ship and crossed the void. It only took him half an hour to arrive outside Fontian City. Su Fong, Xuanxin, and the others flew out of the Peach Soul sky-crossing ship. Su Fong then sucked the ship into the Dao Palace. Su Fong looked at Fontian City. Seeing that the city was intact, Su Fong was slightly relieved. Then he used his extraordinary senses to sense the situation. He found that his subordinates were all safe and sound. Xin Tiansheng, Master Zhua, and the others were all unharmed. Fontian City was even more orderly than before. Su Fong was completely relieved. Xuanxin. Su Fong nodded at Xuanxin, then grabbed her hand. Xuanxin didn't understand what Su Fong wanted to do and couldn't help but be surprised. Su Fong brought Xuanxin to the sky above Fontian City and said in a majestic voice, "I, Su Fong, am back." Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Figures flew out of the city. There were also countless cultivators and mortals in the city. They all walked out of their houses and looked at Su Fong in the sky with solemn expressions. "Greetings, Master." Xin Tiansheng and the other subordinates who had stayed behind to guard Fontian City knelt to Su Fong in the sky. Many cultivators and mortals in the city also knelt on the ground. I didn't expect Su Fong to establish his own force in the eastern profound divine domain so quickly. Law looked at the densely packed, kneeling crowd and couldn't help but sigh with emotion. "Come and pay your respects to your mistress," Su Fong said majestically. His subordinates, as well as countless cultivators and mortals in Square Heaven City, knelt before Xuanxin again and shouted, "Greetings, mistress." Xuanxin was at a loss of what to do when he saw the ant-like crowd and heard the tsunami-like voices. She had just transcended a low-level universe, after all. Now that so many Dao Lords and Dao Lords were kowtowing to her, she naturally found it hard to get used to it. Only now did she understand that the reason Su Fong gathered so many subordinates was not to show off, but to let everyone know of her existence as the mistress. "Xuanxin, no matter what heights I reach in the future, you will always be my family and my wife." Su Fong transmitted his vital spirit to Xuanxin. Xuanxin's heart was filled with warmth, and his cold eyes became moist. The so-called Dao companions were companions on the path of cultivation. With Xuanxin's current cultivation, he was naturally not qualified to become Su Fong's Taoist companion. However, family and wife, regardless of status or strength, would never change. At this moment, Su Fong's inferiority complex when facing Su Fong completely disappeared. They entered Square Heaven City and came to the conference hall. Su Fong asked about Blackheart Patriarch and Ghost King sect attack on Square Heaven City. After knowing what happened, Su Fong said in a cold and embarrassed voice, "Blackheart Patriarch and Ghost King sect dared to attack Square Heaven City. If there was no one behind them, they wouldn't dare even if they had 10 guts." Xin Tiansheng said, after Ghost King sect failed to attack Square Heaven City, they learned that Mistress was ranked 5th on the Heavenly Chosen Divine list. Ghost King sect's leader shackled Blackheart Patriarch and brought more than 1,000 experts of Ghost King sect to Square Heaven City, saying that they wanted to join Mistress. Su Fong was stunned and then sneered. That Ghost King sect's leader is a powerful person who knows how to act according to the wind. "Where is he now?" Xin Tiansheng said, "I was worried that Ghost King sect was up to something, so I didn't let them enter the city. That Ghost King sect's leader has been staying outside Square Heaven City obediently." While they were talking, a subordinate came to report that the Ghost King sect's leader had brought more than 1,000 experts of Ghost King sect to kneel and beg for forgiveness outside the city. Su Fong brought Qin Heng, Xin Tiansheng, and other experts to the outside of the city. The Ghost King sect's leader cupped his fists and bowed to Su Fong. "I was instigated by Blackheart Patriarch to attack Square Heaven City. I'm here to beg for forgiveness from Su Fongda." The 1,000 experts of Ghost King sect behind him all stood upright, exuding a dense and fierce murderous aura. Su Fong said indifferently, "You first attacked Square Heaven City and knew that I was ranked at the top of the Heavenly Chosen Divine list. That's why you came to beg for forgiveness. However, you and your subordinates are saying that you want me to punish you, but each and every one of you is arrogant and unruly. You want to show your strength to me so that I will be afraid and not dare to kill you. Am I right? The Ghost King's sex leader said, I dare not. Qin Hung sneered. If Master wants to kill all of you, it's as easy as lifting a finger. Do you think Master is only ranked 5th in the heavenly chosen divine list? In the Blood Valley, Master defeated Dongxian Huiwang, the top genius of Dongxian Pavilion. If it weren't for Dongxian Lai's plea, Master would have killed him. You bunch of mobs, are you more powerful than Dongxian Huiwang? Defeated Dongxian Huiwang? The Ghost King's sex leader's expression changed instantly. Ordinary cultivators did not know who Dongxian Huiwang was, but this Ghost King sex leader was an expert who dominated the heaven-forsaken wasteland. How could he not know Dongxian Huiwang's name? This lowly one knows his mistake. Please punish me, people of Su Fangda. The Ghost King sex leader quickly knelt down and kowtowed to Su Fang. More than 1,000 experts of Ghost King's sect followed suit and kowtowed loudly on the ground, like an earthquake. Su Fang asked, Where's Blackheart Patriarch? The Ghost King sect's leader released the shackled Blackheart Patriarch and was caught by Su Fang in the air. After a soul-searching, Su Fang's eyebrows raised like swords. Dongxian Jun? I didn't expect it to be Dongxian Jun, that clown again. Soon after, a ball of flame formed from profound yang energy swept out from the center of his palm, enveloping old monster Heixin's body and burning him. Soon he was burned to ashes. Seeing how ruthless Su Fang was, the Ghost King sect's leader and his experts trembled. Su Fang said coldly, I'll give you Ghost King's sect 2 choices. Either you submit to me and become my slaves, or Ghost King's sect will cease to exist and none of you will survive. The Ghost King sect's leader had come to Square Sky City expecting such an outcome and had made a decision in his heart. He said immediately, Ghost King sect is willing to submit to Su Fangda. What rules do you have under my command? Someone will follow you next, so I won't say anything more. Su Fang planted the shackled seed into the Dao Palace and physical body of the Ghost King sect's leader and more than 1,000 experts. After dealing with the Ghost King sect, he was about to return to the city when a treasure ship flew over. It turned out that many cultivators from the Fire Luo mystic world had rushed over from Wudao City to visit Su Fang. Then, flying Xianbao arrived at Square Sky City one after another. It was mainly the giants from various mystic worlds and forces who came to congratulate Su Fang. In the next few days, more and more experts came to Square Sky City. Even super forces like the 3 Supreme Mysterious Sects and the Luo Shao Sword Sects sent envoys to Square Sky City, although the upper echelons did not show up. For a time, Square Sky City was as busy as a marketplace. The experts under Su Fang were all very busy, but they were all very excited. It was very difficult to even see those giants who came to Square Sky City. They had to show off in front of others for a long time. Now, these giants, including some mystic world masters and elders of large forces, were all very polite to Su Fang's subordinates. How could they not be excited? Su Fang could not reject those experts who came to congratulate them, so he personally came out to entertain them. Fortunately, these experts did not come empty-handed, so Su Fang's efforts were not in vain. He also gained a lot. After 3 months of busy, Square Sky City finally quieted down a little. Su Fang began to deal with the Pang clan. He had promised the Pang clan's ancestor that he would help the Pang clan make a comeback, so he naturally had to keep his word. It just so happened that the Fire Luo Mystic World's ancestors and patriarchs were all present, except for the Xian clan. In the end, the 9 families of the Fire Luo Mystic World agreed that the Pang clan would return to the Fire Luo Mystic World, and then expel the Xian clan from the Fire Luo Mystic World. Everything of the Xian clan would belong to the Pang clan. QL11, not only that. In the future, the Fire Luo Mystic World would be controlled by the Chun clan and the Pang clan, which was equivalent to taking away half of the Qin clan's power. The Qin clan had no choice but to grit their teeth and accept it. When Su Fong was in the Fire Luo mystic world and entered the Heavenly Fortune Cave, the Chun clan's experts colluded with Feng Jinhua and Ling Xingong, almost causing Su Fong to die in the Heavenly Fortune Cave. At this time, if Su Fong wanted to take revenge, even if the Chun clan was not exterminated, they would suffer a great loss. Forget about keeping their position as the Realm Master. It would be difficult to say if they could continue to stay in the Fire Luo mystic world. No matter how harsh the conditions were, the Chun clan's ancestor had no choice but to accept it. Who told Su Fong to be so famous and powerful now? His future achievements were limitless. The Chun clan had no choice but to bow their heads. Losing a part of their benefits was better than being chased out of the Fire Luo mystic world like the Xian clan. In fact, Su Fong's original intention was to directly take the Chun clan's position as the Realm Master and let the Pang clan replace it. Then, he would let his subordinates infiltrate the Fire Luo mystic world and control it. Later, when he considered that the Pang clan had suffered a great loss and could not take over a mystic world, he could only plan slowly. This time, the Pang clan could be said to have turned over a new leaf. Naturally, the entire Pang clan was grateful to Su Fong. Miss Pang even wanted to repay him with her body, but unfortunately, she did not even have the chance to be alone with Su Fong. Naturally, she did not have the chance to repay him with her body. Next, it's time to prepare for the finals of the Blood Valley. Su Fong began to prepare for the finals. The finals of the Blood Valley were much crueler than the elite competition. When the time came, the Blood Valley would be connected to the training grounds of the other divine realms. The opponents they would face would not only be the geniuses of the Eastern Profound Divine Realm, but also the peerless geniuses of the other divine realms. There would even be experts of the monster race who would enter the Blood Valley. There are 10,000 years before the start of the finals for the participants to recover. I can use this time to break through to the peak of the Upper Dao Lord realm and become a Dao Lord. Cultivation was Su Fong's current greatest shortcoming. The vast majority of those who could enter the finals were Dao Lords, and there was no lack of peak Dao Lords. And this was only what could be seen on the surface. Of the geniuses who entered the finals, which one of them did not possess a great deal of luck and opportunity?